Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The Michigan Wolverines did it. The game of the night, the NCAA title game goes to Michigan. They beat UConn. Michigan leads the entire second half. UConn never able to tie the game up. Mostly they were down 6 to 10 points. One time they got it a little closer there at the end, but it's Michigan. And now the Big Ten has won men's basketball, women's basketball, and they got the college football title as well. They are rolling. All right, time to talk a little NBA basketball. PK and David Locke and I had a conversation on Friday. Locke was quizzing us about how quickly we thought Ace Bailey could be the man, and he said February. But what about Markkanen? He's getting $50 million. What about Jackson? He's getting $50 million. Isn't that supposed to be guy 1 and 2? Will it really be Keontae or Ace or some combination of all of them? Here's PK and I debating that on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ and PK on Friday, near the end of the show, we had David Locke on for his weekly visit, and he was asking us, when do you think Ace Bailey is going to be ready to take over as the number one option on the team? And after we answered, 2 or 3 years or whatever, he said, how about next February? Middle of next season, Ace Bailey could be the number one option. Possible? Impossible. Probable? Improbable. What do you think? Cam says, with his talent, it's definitely a possibility. The Jazz knew he was raw coming out of college, but the kid's come out and put in the work. I cannot wait to see what a full offseason with the Jazz staff will do. I'm predicting he'll be an all-star by year 3. Sign off on that right now, wouldn't you, PK? Take all-star year 3? Done deal.
I don't see it.
Too early? Too much? Too soon?
I think him being the number one option by February, that's fantasy land. No way. There's just no way.
I thought in 3 years.
No.
I think Keontae's going to have the ball in his hands, and Markkanen and Jackson are going to get a lot of shots. It'll be an important piece, but I didn't see him as number one by the middle of next season.
Comparisons are to Donovan Mitchell. And when Donovan Mitchell came in the league, the Jazz, who'd they have on the team? They didn't have anybody who was capable of scoring. They had nobody. Alec Burks, Dante Exum, Favors, Gobert, Rodney Hood.
No.
I mean, I love Jonas Jerberko as much as anybody.
But
that wasn't happening. Howell, nothing but Neto. Sure. That's a nice little clever nickname. That was the year that David Stockton got in. And we remember him. Was he going to take over? No. So Mitchell was able to do that because they didn't have anybody else. Hayward had just left. And this next season, there is no way that Markkanen and Jaren Jackson are going to be deferring to Ace Bailey. There's just zero chance of that happening.
Joe Ingles isn't walking through that door. Joe was looking to get other people's shots.
They're going to look at him like, kid, you still got to pay your dues. That doesn't mean he's going to have big games, and they're not going to freeze him out. I'm not saying that. But Markkanen been waiting all this time, and now you're going to want him to defer? I want Markkanen to become the man next season. And with that becomes the responsibility that you don't sit over there in street clothes for 40 games like you've been doing every freaking year practically. And your nice hair is all looking modelish. I'm done with that. No, this guy's getting almost $50 million a year. He needs to buck up. And he needs to get his body in shape or mentally, whatever it takes, to be playing at least 70 games next year. And the gloves are going to come off as far as what Markkanen needs to do next season. I mean, we're done with he's a nice guy and he likes it here and he likes the outdoors. I couldn't give a flying you-know-what about that. He needs to show up and he needs to ball at least 70 games unless he has some major injury. The days of him sitting there and smiling on the bench, I'm done with that. And that's got to stop. And he needs to have that mindset because he certainly has the skill set to go out there and be one of the, 15 best players in the league? Yeah, where much is given, much is expected. And he needs to ball next season. And with that, that means everybody else takes a secondary role. Because you can only have one man be the man, and it needs to be marketing.
Think there's a chance they gave the money to the wrong guy?
I don't know. There's a chance for anything.
Yeah. You think there's a likelihood?
If you have a broad question like that, yeah. I believe in his skill. I mean, I follow this kid. His first, his only year in college, obviously, with Arizona. And I thought he was coming to Utah, too, until Arizona did what they did, and he went there. I mean, I don't blame him for that. But this guy has made millions. And I know some people don't want to hear about the money, but I do. And now is the time, or next season being the time. And this team has a chance to be really good, and they need him out there doing his thing.
The money's unavoidable. You only have so much of it to work with. More than ever, the NBA has drawn up that collective bargaining agreement. It's hard to weasel your way around and find more. You get up against the second apron, we've seen teams make hard decisions because they don't want to pay that luxury tax. So as much as you don't want to hear about the money, you've only got so much of it to work with. If you give it to the wrong guy, either because he isn't good enough when he plays or he doesn't play enough because the best ability is availability, then you give it to the wrong guy.
Well, I'm not ready to say that by any stretch. And then Jackson, I'm expecting a big season out of him.
Expect him to do what he does, 20-10.
I see no reason why not.
Show up again, do it again.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, that reduces the opportunities. Cooper Flagg goes to the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm watching that game last night.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the man. He's got the ball in his hands. He's taking all the shots, and great.
Yeah. He shows up, and it's the Donovan Mitchell situation where Hayward had just left, so the shots are available, and he shows up, and Doncic is gone, so the shots are available. Kyrie Irving is hurt, so the shots are available.
And he's pushing 6'10", so he's got all the skill in the world, so that's great. I've got no problem about that. And Ace Bailey, I just don't know if that's the right thing for this team next season to have that type of freedom. In order to be the number one option, that means you have the freedom to do what you see fit. And to me, that is more rebuild mode for Ace Bailey. And I'm being told we're done with rebuild mode. So I don't want to muzzle him or limit him, but at the same time, it has to be within the context of winning. If he can do all that the season starts the end of October, so you basically have November, December, January. So you got about close to 4 months, and let's just say it's the end of October, or the end of February. When Locke's in February. And the thing about
the All-Star break.
The thing that what Locke is talking about is he has to balance what he's told with what he says publicly. And he doesn't say stuff a lot that is without some foundational information. But he can't come out and say it because he's an employee of the team. So he has to straddle that line, and I respect that line, and I don't ever want to put him, certainly not in a public situation. If it's off to the side, that's another story. But I don't ever want to put him in a public situation because he doesn't have to come on with us every Friday, but he chooses to. So I don't want to put him in an awkward situation where he is giving up information that the powers that be don't want to be given up, right? So he has to straddle that line. And I respect that line that he has to straddle because he could just say, hey, I'm not coming on anymore. And I don't want that because we enjoy talking to him. And I think the listening public hears what he's saying. But I think he says stuff based from what other folk might say. Maybe in this case it's just his own observation, him and Ron Boone killing time before a game or in the coffee shop or on the airplane, whatever it might be. I get that. I've been there. I've done all that stuff. And so I can appreciate that. But I just think that under the circumstances, man, that just screams rebuild. And I don't know that I want that. And I don't think anybody wants that. We want to see this team make the postseason. Yeah. But I think he can still make significant progress. But we're talking about the number one option here. We're not talking about number two.
I get why you bring up the rebuild. I just don't think that's a possibility. This has gone on so long. They're starting to get pushback from the ticket-buying public and from the fans, and the owner is as big a fan as anyone. Danny Ainge was joking and laughing because it was serious about Ryan asking him, when are we going to win, when are we going to win? That was in like year one. Ryan wants this as bad as all the fans. He grew up a Jazz fan playing junior Jazz basketball. There's a reason they're running those campaigns during the game. So I think if Ace Bailey's the guy next year, it's because either there's injuries and guys can't play, which will be its own problem, or because he's excelled. I don't think they're going to say, hey, let's make this guy the guy, and we'll go through the growing pains with him. I'd be surprised. I'd be really surprised if it plays out that way. He's got to be good enough to demand it. And the thing about Locke is that Locke not only talks to people at practice and, in the building and all that, but he's been doing this a long time. He knows all the broadcasters around the league. He knows a bunch of scouts around the league. So I wonder how much of this expectation from Ace comes from inside the organization. But you're right. He doesn't just fire stuff off, There's other people watching stuff around the league, and they're telling him stuff, and then he mulls it over. So it's some combination of stuff he thinks, and he may or may not be up in the night, but it's also stuff that a lot of other people think. And they may or may not, be on point and on target.
Yeah.
And they're betting on Ace getting a lot better.
And I am too. I see no reason. Yeah. I don't know what his work ethic is. We'll find out. I'm hoping it's strong. I have no reason to doubt that it isn't. But he has an opportunity to really solidify himself as a big-time player next season, and then beyond that, as that all-star. He asked us what we thought, and to me, Gordon Hayward, was an athletic guy, about this, maybe an inch or two shorter. Not quite as athletic, but I think few people are quite as athletic as Ace Bailey. But Hayward, when he was here in his prime, was a very good player. And I think that Ace Bailey's ceiling is higher than Gordon Hayward's, which that means he's an all-star. He left here as an all-star. It went south with the injury and other circumstances at Boston. But forget about that, what he was here. And he was legitimately an all-star for that one season, and if he would have stayed and had his health and everything, I think he would have continued to be that. So I see by year 3 or 4, certainly by 5, that's who Ace Bailey is. And then I've got these other guys here, Markkanen and Jackson. If they stay, you never know what's going to happen, but if they stay, they're not going to be. They may be a little bit beyond their absolute very best, but not that far, which means this team has a really great opportunity to be good for the next 5 to 7 years.
The interesting with Markkanen will be when he's on the floor and there's a lot of other guys who can score. Because back to your point about Mitchell, he's playing with guys who either could shoot but didn't really want to shoot, like Joe, guys who couldn't shoot, like Gobert, guys who really need to be within 10 feet of the hoop if they were going to shoot, like Rubio. I mean, they were what is it, ham and egg in it. They were really like trying to make all the pieces of the puzzle fit. Markkanen can go get 20 a game. Jackson can go get 20 a game. Keontae George can go get 20 a game. So the interesting thing is how all of that gets balanced. I'm leaning towards there's nobody at 25 a game next year. That was partly a product of you better force feed Markkanen, and he's done it, but he's done it on teams where there just weren't that many guys who could score. And he just hasn't played that many games this year with Keontae, and he hasn't played that many games this year with Jaren Jackson, to be sure. So we haven't really seen him, but when there's more guys who can score at a high level, and it's pretty easy to see how there's 4 guys who could get 20 points on any given night next year. How are any of them going to average 25 or whatever, which is where Donovan Mitchell went. But again, Mitchell went with, he's playing with a couple guys who don't want to shoot, a couple guys who can't shoot, and pretty soon he's getting a ton of FGAs.
Yeah, I mean, in order to score, you got to get FGAs.
A reminder, join Scotty G today from noon to 3. He's at My Hearing Centers at 8941 South, 700 East in Sandy. DJ and PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Riley Jensen railing on the limitations. Why can't we get to all those fields that our tax dollars paid for? Stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Sunday night, I saw Riley Jensen go to Twitter, really upset that he couldn't get on the high school tracks at a couple of his local high schools, and man, did that resonate. Hundreds of comments. Not everyone agreeing. Some people thinking they should be locked up, some thinking we pay for them, and we should definitely be able to exercise and go play with our kids. And a lot of people have great memories on those fields, but times have changed. Vandalism, some of those artificial turf fields are really expensive. So we got Riley on the phone to kind of talk about it yesterday. He joined us late in the show. Here's our conversation with Riley. So Riley goes on Twitter yesterday and celebrates Easter with a, I don't know, what is this, the 800-word post? 271 comments, 218 retweets, 2,000 likes, people calling you out, people pumping you up, you responding to a bunch of them, which just sent people scattering. Riley, did you not have some family event or dinner or something yesterday? I mean, you just had all kinds of time for this.
I did. I think, look, I'm not trying to be the bad guy here. I'm not trying to be a real pain. I was just frustrated yesterday because one of my fondest memories, honestly, was when I grew up, and I'm a member of the predominant faith. We used to watch LDS conference, and then in between, my dad and I would go up to the school and play catch on the football field. Sometimes we'd pull out a timer and do 40-yard dash times. We'd just have fun in between the sessions, and then we'd go back and watch the rest. Now, yesterday happened to be Easter, so it is what it is. But what was frustrating to me yesterday is my son and my daughter wanted to go, and my daughter wanted me. She's running track for her junior high team. She wanted me to time her, and she wanted to work on getting out of the blocks and do some different things. And I went to 2 of the schools that are closest to me, and it's locked down like Fort Knox. Now, I will say this. It was Easter yesterday, so maybe that's part of the reason. But I've been there plenty of times lately where you can't get in. It's locked down like Fort Knox. And, I've looked into the laws before and the different things. And when you're a taxpayer in the neighborhood, you're supposed to – it's called – the law refers to these schools as civic centers. And it says that as long as it's not during school hours or during school activities, that these facilities should be open to the public for use. Now, you can get into it with me about there is some places where it says that they can charge, but I've tried to rent fields there before. Do you know it costs over $400 to rent a football field right now, an hour. So that's reasonable for me as a taxpayer. I'm just frustrated, and I think the reason why it went viral is not because of anything that I said, but I think other people are frustrated about it. And there's all kinds of comments like, well, it's because of dog people and they don't take care of their dogs and there's vandalism. I just think that that's a 1960s dad response to, this is why we can't have nice things. Look, this is nuanced. And there's got to be a way, and there was actually some really good solutions that I saw in response to my tweet or my post that are very, very good responses. And I just think that there has to be a better answer than to just lock it down and make it not possible for me to time my daughter on a track on a Sunday afternoon. That just seems ridiculous to me.
Okay.
No disagreement from you? I mean, come on, PK.
Well,
it's early. Let's go.
I was thinking back to my youth, and when I was living back east, Parsippany High School, and my father and I would go up and throw the football around, and we'd take the dog, and we would literally just throw the football, and my father fancied himself as a kicker, and he would have me hold, and he would kick what he said was a 35-yard field goal. I always told him, I said, yeah, but Dad, when you run 20 yards, you can't count that as part of the distance for the kick. So
Nice.
we would have these arguments back and forth, but when DJ was explaining this situation, that's
you
what
were
I
smart
thought
out
of.
from day one.
Yeah, of course. I agree with that.
I wonder how much this has changed recently. Riley, you did a good job of characterizing the negativity. There was a local baseball coach who complained that he got in his field all set, and then he found the dugout just absolutely trashed. The Olympus High track and field coach identified himself. Let's hear it for people who identify themselves on Twitter before they say what they have to say. Own it. Love that. A lot of respect for that guy, even though I've never met him. I don't know who he is. And he talked about tracks, getting torn up, and there's 1,000+ athletes trying to use them just at Olympus High, alone. So I get where some of those people are going, but as recently as 15 years ago, I had a kid who had played tennis in elementary school, went away and played a bunch of other sports, and he wanted to make the high school team. He said, Dad, let's go hit. And so we went to 2 local high schools, one of them which I bet you were at, and we played on their tennis courts just a couple of times just so he could play a little bit before tryouts. And then once he was on his team, he'd always play with their friends. So it's not like we had to do it a lot, but they were accessible. They were open. And there were other people there on the tennis courts almost always when we went. We probably went 3 or 4 times. And there were always, people using some of the courts. They were never all in use, but there were other people there.
No.
So I wonder if that's changed a little bit or if the track is especially protected.
I don't know what the answer is. I feel like it's within the last 5 years it's become really bad. There've been some places that, even 10 years ago were locking it down. And look, I'm not saying that even I have all the answers. I would just like to have a conversation, and I'm working my angles to be able to have conversations about this. This isn't just something that I complain about all the time. I've actually looked into the law on it. I've looked into some different things. And I just think, look, vandalism will go down if there's a bunch of people on the courts and a bunch of people on the tracks, like watching other people. I don't know the solution. I threw out maybe a bad solution to get security guards, and people are like, well, this will cost this much and this much and this much. But I know there's got to be some common sense solutions to this problem because, look, my daughter's 13. She's going to run on some of these tracks next year. She's in junior high. She wants. Look, in my book, Pure Unadulterated Guts, we talk about this, about how since 2007, when the iPhone was released, in 2012, when we reached critical mass, which means more than 50% of people had smartphones, teenagers in 8th, 10th, and 12th grades are often feel left out of things, and a lot of times they feel lonely, and it's through the roof where it's gone since 2012. So here I am as a parent and as a father trying to fight against that as much as I can by getting my kids outdoors, by getting my kids active. And it's just frustrating that schools that know these numbers and know these problems have doors locked down. And, people have been getting on me. They're like, well, have you ever tried a public park? Yeah. Tell me where there's a track at a public park that I can work on things with my daughter. Tell me where that is, And I don't know. I'm just frustrated. There has to be a better way. There has to be a better way.
What are you doing, PK?
I just thought of a Circle
Is that
K.
Mayberry?
Circle K commercial in Phoenix. There's gotta be an easier way. There's gotta be a better way.
I'm with Riley. I went right away to Mayberry. I'm like,
I thought he was like, I thought he was thinking like that I just want to go back to the 50s where everything was more simple. And
I can appreciate and respect that, Richie. It's no problem. I do recall that one time when we were kicking footballs on the field. The high school was up a little hill, and you walked down. There was tennis courts, then there was a practice field, then there was the actual field. And it was a gradual decline, not that much, but a little bit of a decline. So we would park the car at the top, walk down, and this is New Jersey for you. While we were kicking the ball and throwing the ball, we look up, and there's two guys in my father's car trying to jumpstart it and steal it. True story. Absolute true story.
Well, hey, look, people in Utah are acting like that's happening at every high school because we're leaving the doors open.
And so my father says, they're stealing the car. What are we going to do? We take off running.
How old are you?
12?
Okay.
Yeah, we take off running, and it's not a big hill, but it is a little bit of an incline. And we take off running. We're hauling after him, screaming at him. Ah! We're using Dan Hurley's mother's language, which I had heard from my mother 1,000 times over, and my grandmother, for that matter. And as we got within where they could see us and certainly hear us, they jumped out of the car, got in their car, and peeled off.
Oh.
So the car did not get stolen.
But your dad was spot on. He wasn't just being paranoid. He was spot on.
In terms of, what do you mean?
They were trying to steal the car.
Oh, yeah, they were trying to steal the car. Yeah,
he was definitely right.
No, you could see why they were in the car trying to do the push it with the clutch thing to get it to go and then to take off. Yeah. And I used some choice language that
right then, when you were 12, you were throwing it out then?
Hell yes.
I thought you were going to say heck yes. You're like damage, Riley. Damage. This was a big deal.
Right. But it's funny that, and I didn't know all this until DJ said it, that when you first said that, I hearkened back. We're going back many, many years. My father died in 2015. So we're going back many, many years. And I still, to this day, have that memory of him with me, squatting down as you would, holding the ball, and with my index finger, we all know that, and him running to kick the ball. And and I hadn't thought about that in a long time. But now that I think about it, it's one of the sweetest memories I had. Mm-hmm. And I still have.
Teacher. Yeah, my dad was a high school teacher, and I played basketball, baseball, and football on the Bonita Vista High Fields, just killing time, waiting for him a few times when I got dropped off there when Mom was taking the other kids other places. And take a basketball, go shoot some baskets while your dad finishes up. Okay. Good time.
Listen, my dad was a school teacher. Some of my fondest memories, he used to teach community ed classes at night. He was he worked hard. And I remember that sometimes when I would ask him to go on a Saturday or Sunday over to the fields to hit baseballs or do something, I can remember that his face was tired, and I remember him making the effort anyway. And those are great memories to me too. I just want to look. I just feel like kids should be able to go to a field with their dad every once in a while, and it shouldn't be a big deal. Shouldn't be a big deal.
If you dove deeper into this, PK, you would love it, because Riley, who's generally a pretty easygoing guy, got super combative. Edward posts, every organization is scared bleepless of liability, and Riley tweeted back at him the Kobe meme, soft, with Kobe shaking his head. And it's not kid Kobe. This is veteran shaved head Kobe. Soft. I got titles. You'll never get there. Soft.
I can remember that circumstance when they tried to rip off the car and we warded them off. Mm-hmm. He took out his smokes and we both sat there relaxed, sitting down, and we had a smoke, the two of us, and we went home.
One guy's tweeting at Riley, Too many things get ruined by locals. This taxpayer statement always gets me as a retired administrator. Your taxes pay for the fire department, Riley. Can you go in and slide down the fire pole? The taxes pay for the police. Can you go and play at a 911 call center?
Why would you want to do that?
Those places, and those places aren't called civic centers in the law. So it's not a tired argument, and I'm glad you're tired of it because I'm going to keep arguing about it.
You go, boy.
These people are they're just ticking me off because they're coming at me like I'm some kind of a jerkwad, like this is some sort of like a real nuisance that I'm coming up with. And so I'm tired of it. I'm not going to put up with stuff. There was one guy that tweeted at me, and I go, "Oh, I bet you're fun at parties." You know,
you tweeted multiple people that. I'm getting to that. You tweeted Utah code. You were copying and pasting code and tweeting it at people. I was entertained last night when I saw this. I should have gone to bed, but I was like, how bad is Riley going to go after these people?
I'm just tired of these weak sauce answers about but people poop on the field. Their dogs poop on the field. Dude, come on.
Yeah, I don't know that people poop on the field. That'd be really gross.
Yeah, I corrected that, but it's just I'm a little bit tired of it. And I'm not gonna put up with you calling me a jerk because I even when I posted I put frustrated dad alert, like
you did,
which to me means don't read it. You don't have to read it if you don't want to, but this is how I feel today. You know,
climb the fence and go, you bleep and bleep. You went right back at that guy. Good work, Riley.
Because that guy, it's really easy to tote my 6-year-old daughter over a 6-foot fence. Clearly a guy who doesn't have a family or hasn't had a family. It just ticked me off. All these answers, I'm like, wow, I never thought about jumping the fence. I've only jumped hundreds in my life. I mean, at Utah State University, when I was a kid, I was sneaking over the fence to get into games because I couldn't afford it. And that was in the 80s when games were like $2. Don't lecture me on jumping over a fence when we can figure out a solution where I don't have to jump a fence with my kids.
Hey, I can out poverty you, though, buddy. You two, your dads were teachers. My father cleaned the toilets in the schools.
See, there you go. You got us.
I'm not going to lie. My dad did that as well. So we're equal.
He actually was the janitor. How about this? At a school that he cleaned in the afternoon, evening, where my sister was the principal.
Good for him, man. I actually can really respect that.
Me too. Absolutely, I really respect it. Me too.
Good, honest living. Trying to take care of his kids.
He did it very well. The best of his ability. Yep.
You're going to get me teared up now about good dads.
I'm already there.
Maybe I should go.
Yep. All right, one last thing before you go, and we can have you back on to talk about this another time. But I know you hear stuff about from all the local schools. You know people at every school now, and you hear stuff about spring football and all that. I know somebody who went to a BYU practice, and they're not a BYU fan, but they're part of the football community, and the football community is, super interconnected here with all the coaching hires that have been made. And they came away blown away by Bear Bachmeier. They said he's way better than he was as a freshman.
Wow.
And they were comparing him to Alex Smith. And I'm here to tell you they are not a Cougar fan. This was not about the blue goggles and wishing it
That's
were
quite
so.
a recommendation by Ron McBride.
Yeah. So, have you heard that? Have you seen that? Do you believe that?
I've heard that he's doing very well in spring. This is exactly what you want to happen. I'm very happy that he's doing what he's supposed to do. But one of the things that happens once you've been the starter for a year and then you come back is just guys respond to you better because they know that you're the guy, and things are naturally going to go better in spring. But nobody on Texas Tech's football team really cares that Bear Bachmeier is better because they're like, he can't really throw the ball if I can freaking sack him in 1.21 seconds. So I'm always cautious about spring ball. It doesn't mean that he's not checking the box and doing what he's supposed to do, and I'm really happy for him because I think he's a great I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's a great person. I see him doing a lot of things out in public, and I'm not sure that if that was my son that I'd want him to do as much as he's doing off the field. I'd be like, hey, just play football, and everything will take care of itself. Be a nice, gracious person, but you don't have to go to every public signing and all that kind of stuff. But he's got the energy and he's got the ability to do that, and I like it. I'm just very cautious about anything that people say about spring ball.
All right, there's Riley Jensen. A reminder, don't miss your chance to win big every week on the KSL Sports Zone. This week, you can win tickets to see Weezer with the Shins and Silverson Pickups at the Maverick Center September 15th. Buy your tickets at livenation.com or listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Kelly Poppinga. Where does the BYU defense stand as spring football ends? You'll hear from Kelly next. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. BYU wrapping up spring football. Where does Kelly Poppinga think his defense stands? Here's the new BYU defensive coordinator with the media.
For me, coordinating here for the first time, I thought it was a ton of good practice for me, especially in the scrimmage situations. Coaching with new coaches, with Coach Walker and Coach Warren and Coach Chad, and our whole staff, just that whole cohesion is coming together, and and our players getting used to my style of how I coordinate, and our other coaches. It's priceless to have what we just had and went through, and so I thought it went really well. Everybody's going to say that, obviously, but I feel really good where we're at. I think we got a great senior leadership. I think we got great players coming back that have a ton of experience. And so really now it's just really refining all these things that we learned in spring ball and then continuing to learn and grow throughout the summertime. I told our guys a lot of championships are won from now until fall camp starts. And so I believe the real difference in this program is going to come down to now how we lead through April and May and June and July leading up to fall camp. And so I'm really excited to see these guys lead. I think Keanu Tonavasa and Isaiah Glasker and some of these other seniors, Evan Johnson, are going to take the lead on that. And I'm just really excited to see these guys continue to grow and develop and help us get to a Big 12 championship and get into the playoff and make a run there. But first things first is day by day, just getting ourselves better to compete this fall.
Perfect. Our first question is going to be from Jay Catch.
Yeah, Kalani, you talked to us earlier on in spring camp and talked about the install going on with just your kind of unit philosophy defensively. Did you get it all in, or is there still places or things you need to still install coming up in training camp?
The thing about defensive coaches, there's always more to install. We love everything, Jake. So anyway, it's just we got mostly everything we wanted to get in. I would actually say we got in more than we thought we were going to get in. And a lot of that just has to be I think comes from there's a lot of carryover from last season. But there's some new stuff too as well. And those were the main things. I would say the newer things is what we focused on the most, just because some of that stuff is going to be, there's just a little bit of learning. But I feel really comfortable with our install. I think Kalani felt good of how fast things went and how fast our guys picked up things. And I think a lot just goes, we're experienced. Like, we're not dealing with a bunch of, freshmen coming in or, new starters. We got a ton of returning starters. So I think the flow of that went really well. And really excited where we're at right now.
Were there one or two players in your mind that stood out among the rest of the defense that may have, earned a spot?
Yeah, Evan Johnson, he got a little banged up near the end of spring ball. Nothing serious, just a little hammy. But, he anytime he was out there, man, that guy is just a major difference maker for us. And I'm really excited about him. And I thought Trey Alexander finished really strong in spring ball. But other than that, I feel really, really good with three safeties right now with Tommy Prasis and Folta and Rader, and I feel good with Keanu and great with Hunter Clegg and all these guys that have played. Cade Ulaves look great, and Jay Clifton, and I feel really, really good with the guys that we have right now. I can't single one guy out. I really can't. There's guys that make plays every single day, but I can tell you what, right now, I'm really glad Cade Ulaves here. That dude's a really good player, and then you get Glasker back. In the after the off season here, he'll be healthy and well here in a couple weeks. I just think we have a really good football team and we have a chance. But I've said this to you guys before. That doesn't mean anything, right? We got to go put the work in and go earn it, and get ourselves ready to have a great season and start prepping for Utah Tech and the rest of the Big 12.
Next question from Mitch Harper.
Kelly, with how experienced your team is, as you noted, with all the experience returning, how maybe established coming out of spring is the 2 and 3 deep for your defense?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It is as good as it's been since I've been here. All right. And so, I think a lot has to do we recruited really well the last 3 years. Props to Coach Hill for helping out with that. He did a great job recruiting and our staff in the past, and I think we're going to continue to do that. I think we have as good as a 2 or 3 deep that I've ever had. Now, we got to put it on. I keep saying that, right? Because, everybody wants to give the expectations. We have higher expectations than anybody. But I feel really good at every position. The one position where I think we got to continue to develop some depth is at the corner position, but I think we have some really good young guys there that, Jordan Chris, Kevin Doe, some of these guys that haven't played a lot that I thought had really solid springs. That would be the one position where I think we got to continue to develop some guys and get us a 4th and 5th corner. But other than that, I feel really good about all the other positions.
To follow up on that, are there, the last couple of years in roster construction, there was a post-spring portal. Is that even a way to maybe go in and any way to go add some additional personnel to that cornerback position, or is it just kind of develop from within without a post-spring window?
Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to just continue to develop from within and get the guys here that we have ready. And anybody that's left over in the portal right now, for the most part, they're guys that, they're there for a reason. A lot of those guys, probably not power 4 players. So, I like the guys that we have. I really do. At that position now. It's just, I think, just getting them more and more experience. And like I said, Jordan Chris, Kevin Doe, those guys that were getting reps with, as our 4th and 5th guy, I thought they really came along. Matthias Leach is another guy. We moved him from safety to corner, and he showed us some stuff that I was really excited about. I think Lewis Walker's doing a great job with those guys. He's coaching those guys super hard and, helping them be, I think more and more I'm trying to think of the right word, but getting them more and more comfortable with the scheme that we have. He's done a great job, spent a lot of time with them. And I think we'll just continue to develop the guys we have.
Next question from Jay Drew.
Yeah, Kelly, I asked this question because I put out a kind of a post-spring depth chart for my own publication and for a national one. Will the actual depth chart, the terminology, the like 4-3 defense, will that change under your direction as opposed to Jay Hill's?
No. If you look at Jay's defense and this defense, it's all the same. We're very multiple. We'll be 4-3, we'll be 3-4, we'll be 3-3-5, we'll be 4-2-5. We do it all. And so as far as the depth chart goes, it'll stay, I think, very similar to what we've had before. I don't think I'd see any changes with that.
And I was just going to ask you about the defensive line. You said you're happy at all positions. Do you feel like it doesn't seem like you added much from the transfer portal there? Does that mean you're really happy with the guys you have in the trenches there? Yeah, I'm really happy with the guys there. I think Coach Puha, Coach Kaha, and Coach Anderson's had an influence on that too as well. They've done a great job of developing. We have a lot of young guys that haven't really played for us that I think are going to be very, very good players. Kini Fonohema being one of them, Vince Tautua being another one, Kendall Wall being another one, and that's not even mentioning the 7 or 8 guys that we have coming back that have playing experience. So I'm super excited, and we're big, we're long, we're physical. We've recruited very well at that position. I would say probably better than any position. That's the position we've probably recruited the best. And so, we don't want to live in the portal. We want to be a team that recruits out of high school and develops within, and it helps these guys grow and develop in the culture. And every now and again, take a guy from the portal if we have to plug in, here and there. But we're going to recruit in high school and develop from the high school ranks.
Next question from Casey Lundquist.
Hey, Coach. Jay and Mitch had covered a few mine, so I just a brief one for you. Do you feel like you have an identity that's formed during spring camp from your defense?
That's a great question, man. I think the identity has been here, and there's a little addition here and there, but I think if you look at this defense just over the years, from the time that Kalani ran it to Coach Anderson into Jay Hill, there's a true identity where we're going to play man, we're going to play some cover 3, we're going to mix in some too high, and there's going to be some new little wrinkles in there too as well. And so our players know what that is, our program knows what it is, and the rest of the world will find out here in a couple weeks or months. But I think that identity is, I think when people watch BYU defense, and they've learned this, I think over the last 3 years, we're going to be multiple, and we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to be really, really good at 3 or 4 things, but it's going to look like a lot to a lot of people. But we're going to continue to do what we do and do what the scheme's done for a long time.
Next question from Sean Walker.
Yeah, Coach, I just wanted to follow up with a guy that you mentioned, one of the new guys in Kedu Luave, kind of what he's been doing for you guys. Was there anything that kind of surprised you about him when you got him on campus and started working with him in spring ball? Or was he a little bit of kind of what you expected from his tape at Cal? I asked that because I covered him a whole bunch in high school, and there was a time when I thought he might wind up being a Division I running back. So I just wondered if there was anything that kind of surprised you about him.
I was surprised of how fast he is. He's maybe the second fastest guy on our team right now. And we got some fast guys, really fast guys. And so we got, I think there's 7 or 8 guys on our team that are sub like 10-6 guys. And when you put football pads on all these guys and you get them on the football field, we've clocked Cade in practice at 22 miles an hour, which is fast as most of our corners. So I would say I watched this film and I thought he was fast, and he looked really fast, but he's faster and more explosive than I thought he was. And so and when that guy pulls the trigger in the run game and he comes downhill, I mean, it's as quick and as fast as I've seen. And so really excited to see what he's going to do in games in the Big 12.
Next question from Mitch Harper.
Kelly, you'll appreciate this. I was thinking back to the days when he had special names in his defense with the old 3-3-5, the Cat and the Cougar. I'm curious, with your defense, do you have any special names of certain positions in this multiple defensive scheme that you have?
Oh, man, I've wanted to. We've actually made it even simpler. We just call them letters. We got the F, the B, the M, the R. We're just, we've made it even simpler. I don't know why we've done that, but that's kind of something we've done with the coaching staff. But, man, I need to get more creative than that, don't I? We got the F backer, Mitch. That doesn't sound very violent, right? So, we've kind of simpled it down a little bit. But no crazy names yet. Maybe that'll come here in the future.
And then last thing from me, I was curious, just an update maybe on a guy that, started with you as a defensive end, and he's kind of worked around at Sam linebacker. I'm curious, an update, Ephraim Asiata. Just maybe what you see from Ephraim in spring and the outlook for him.
Yeah, Ephraim continues to do a great job. He's been great since he's been here. Super great athlete. We just got to continue to get him bigger and stronger. That's been what's held him back a little bit. But super smart guy, knows the defense really well, plays the rover position, I think, pretty well, especially in the pass game. I think he does a great job. But we just got to continue to get him some size and strength that will hold him up there in those first and second downs.
Thanks.
All right, last question from Jay Catch.
Yeah, Kelly, you talked about the veteran nature of your defense. We've seen some young guys like Braxton Lindsay, et cetera, really stand out in the portions we've been able to watch. Do you think some of your younger players are able to crack that 2 deep and may have done so already in spring?
Braxton. I think Braxton's had a really solid spring, especially for a freshman coming in. But I think there's been, Glasker's been out, Newsie's been out. Some of those veteran guys have been out at that position. That's given him an opportunity. So I think it's really hard for freshmen to play, just in this day and age in college football, especially how much defense we have in. But I think for what we've done, Braxton's done a good job of that, and I think he has a bright future here, and he's made a ton of plays. But like I said before, there's been some key guys out at that position that'll push all those guys. I think what those guys have seen is Braxton's going to push those guys in the fall, which is awesome. I think competitive, having that depth is going to make the competitive nature of that position even better. And so I'm excited to see all those guys compete in the fall.
What's going to keep you up at night between now and August?
Shoot, man. What vacations I'm going to go on, honestly, and how I'm going to control my girls during vacation time. That's where my mind's going to be honest with you. But the football part of it, I feel really good because I got a great staff. A-Rod's going to be mad he's sitting over here right now, but I love our offense. I think we play great complementary football. And so when we play great complementary football, really our offense, when we're running the ball and controlling the ball like we do, it makes it really easy to play defense. So I just think we've done a great job of that the last couple of years. So, I sleep well at night when those things happen.
There's Kelly Poppinga with the media as BYU wraps up spring football. We're going to take a break. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag college basketball.
Michigan beats UConn to win it all, 69-63. L.A. Cadeau got to the rim, bunch of easy lay-ins, putbacks, that kind of stuff. He had 19 points. It's a good thing, PK, because whether it was the fact these are two great defensive teams or maybe it's shooting in the dome, maybe it's the pressure of the moment, maybe it's all those things, that was a terrible shooting performance from the three-point line. But, hey, win with the other stuff, and Michigan did, despite 2 of 15 from the arc.
Toughness, the one guy you mentioned from West Orange, New Jersey.
All right, well, Michigan gets the win. They do it with 5 transfers, PK, and I guess we'll get to this coming up in the next segment, but welcome to the New World Order. All those recruiting rankings, so what? Find me some transfers.
It's an amazing accomplishment. New coach, second year, blah, blah, blah. And I always felt they were going to win. I think they were a better team. And, and Dan Hurley talking about it, they didn't hit shots. I mean, it's kind of flushed out that neither team was really hitting shots. And if one team would have shot the ball average, maybe above average a little bit, they probably would have won. But it flushed out, and it was a wash. And so then Michigan had a little more, just a little bit more talent to be able to do what they did in that circumstance. Certainly if UConn had been average, obviously Mullins, a bunch of shots that were completely and totally makeable, they didn't go in. And that's when a one-game basis, shooting in basketball, it's why coaches are 50 years old and look like they're 75, because they worry about that, because it happens. And it happened for both teams, but your team thinking, and Hurley and these guys are going to be replaying it in their minds, but the shots that they made to beat Duke weren't falling here. So you go back and forth on that, and you never know on a one-game basis if teams are relatively even, which I thought they were.
North Carolina hired former Denver Nuggets coach Michael Malone. He won 510 games and 12 seasons in the NBA, won an NBA title, hasn't coached at the college level since 2001. We're seeing more and more of this. Well, as long as we're playing the players, it's a pro game. Let's go get a pro coach. See how it pays off for North Carolina, but that one came out of left field a little bit when you saw the names that were being mentioned, and then they pivot and go get Michael Malone. But the transfer portal's opening. They couldn't let this drag on, or could have wrecked the team. So I think the portal's open today. It's go time.
I think the portal has been open for a while in terms of players putting their names in there, and you can have some conversations. I mean, these rules that they have and who pays attention to them, I'm not sure. But we'll see what he does, pro coach, and can they make the adjustment? I mean, there's no point thinking, well, there's been X amount of pro coaches who have gone and they've succeeded or they haven't succeeded, whatever, because everything is relatively brand new. It's only 2 or 3 years into it, so you can't really count on what's been going on for the last 40, 50 years.
Xavier Staten announced he's entering the NCAA transfer portal, so he is leaving BYU. Jordy Barnes, former Olympus High star, is leaving Utah State. He's entering the transfer portal, and we can keep going. The Utes have guys going in the portal as well. It's that time of year.
Brown, their leading scorer, and then what's the kid, the big kid who for Utah State? He put his name in there and looked like he might be developing like in the next 2 or 3 years to be something special. We'll see what happens there. But a couple guys returned for Utah State.
Yes, Utah State's getting Falsleb and Templin back. So
and they'll do well, and they'll maybe win the first round game and then go out in the second round.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Utah Jazz.
Utah Jazz have 3 games left in the season, 1 game left in this road trip. They are in New Orleans tonight against the Pelicans. Tip-off at the Smoothie King Center, set for 6 o'clock. Pregame show at 5 here on The Zone. Just 3 more games, PK, and we can say goodbye to this era. Now, it's like you say, Utah Jazz 1.0, Utah Jazz 2.0. They always do this with teams. Like, they don't really number the downtimes, the rebuilds. The 3rd rebuild, the 4th rebuild comes to a close. But hopefully that's what we're about to see. Just 3 more of this. Get it over with already.
Well, it's 1 more week. I mean, I can wait. Yep. I'm not in a big hurry to have it happen. I don't want to wish away time. But this is... And then it is at 12:01. Like the transfer portal opened at 12:01 Sunday night. It's go time for the Jazz.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag NBA.
In the NBA, Victor Wembanyama, rib contusion. He leaves the game. San Antonio beats Philadelphia 115-102. Told reporters after the game he's not concerned about being out long. Not that big a deal, which is good since, as you just pointed out, there's only a week left in the season. It's almost time for the playoffs, so be healthy.
Oh, good for them, but bad for others. And what are you, a San Antonio fan now?
Oh, humongous. Yeah, just ginormous. Detroit Pistons star Cade Cunningham nearing a return to action after suffering a collapsed lung last month. He's been out since March 19th. They are the top seed in the East. I think they got beat last night, but whatever, they're holding on to the top spot despite that 123-107 loss in Orlando. 57 wins for the Pistons this year. Big season. And Denver, in overtime, beat Portland. That is your dark horse in the West now. With the Lakers all banged up, they get a W as they make a push here to the finish line. The Bulls cleaning house, start over. 6 years with Arturas Karnisovas and general manager Mark Eversley. So they're out. The executive vice president of basketball operations, the GM, both gone. Only 1 playoff appearance in the last 6 years. The Bulls will start over again.
Well, bad for them, but at least I now know who they were, because up until yesterday, I had no idea who they were.
Yeah. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
Countdown's on to the draft later this month. Former Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, widely expected to be the number 1 pick, going to the Raiders, making his formal pre-draft visit to Las Vegas. Find out where the locker rooms are. Get a tour of the stadium. Probably use that to get a little local media, try to sell some tickets.
I know where the stadium is. I've covered several games there.
Yeah, you've been there way more than Fernando Mendoza.
And I've been there once for a concert and probably 5 or 6 times for games.
Oh, really? That many? I thought, because you got Vegas Bowls plus conference title games. Yeah, plus that Notre Dame BYU game. Yeah, a ton of games there. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson reported for the team's first off-season workouts yesterday, showing he's ready to build with new head coach Jesse Mintner. There were rumors that he might not participate, but there he was in the flesh. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Dodgers get the good news and the bad news. The World Series rematch with Toronto. Good news is Dodgers win 14-2. The bad news for the Jays, not only do they lose the game, Max Scherzer lifted after 2 innings due to forearm tendonitis. Is affecting how hard he could throw, so Max Scherzer out.
I lifted this morning a little bit too.
Guardians All-Star third baseman Jose Ramirez becomes the franchise's all-time leader in games played, 1,620 games. That's every day for 10 years. Of course, nobody plays every day for 10 years. He didn't do it in a row, but you get the idea. They lose the game, though, 4-2 to Kansas City. You see the pictures of Tropicana Field? Absolutely packed. The Rays beat the Cubs 6-4. It had been almost 2 years since they played there. Hurricane Milton ripping the roof off the stadium, major repairs. But they're back, and it looks like it's much brighter, I guess, with the new roof. They're letting a little more of the light in. So Place is packed.
Yeah, they were discussing this morning on the baseball channel driving in if that can work, if that area will be able to support a team. And they were talking about, can they be like the San Diego Padres, who now pack the place every night? But there was a time when that wasn't the case, and they got the new ballpark that's beautiful and activities around there, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And so, I'm not familiar with the area, so I can't really speak to it. I mean, and I know that the Florida teams don't draw particularly well, so I don't know if they can. They don't have a lot of attendance in their games, so we'll see.
Took 10 games, but Cal Raleigh went deep. Rangers beat the Mariners 2-1. Raleigh set a MLB record for a catcher at 60 home runs last year. Now he's got 10 games into the season. And the Bees open a series in Reno tonight. Tony Park's on the call. First pitch at 7:05. The game will be on 102.7 HD2 or the KSL Sports app, because the Jazz and Mammoth will be on 97.5 and 1280 The Zone tonight. DJ and PK.
#golf.
Colin Morikawa will play through a back injury this week at the Masters. He's been dealing with it since the Players' Championship, forced him to withdraw from the Valero Texas Open. But that's the Valero Texas Open, PK. This is the Masters. You got to try to gut it out. Don't want to skip Augusta.
And they listened to, he did the interview yesterday, and I listened to it this morning. And, that's what he was talking about. It's not in great condition, but it's something that he's going to try to push through. He says you can't rush the human body. His spirit sounded okay, knowing that it's not ideal, but this is the Masters, and it comes around once a year, and you get only so many chances to play in your prime, and so here it is. We'll see what he can do.
And the leadership at Augusta National asking Jason Day to tame his clothing choices for this week's tournament. He was asked to do the same thing last year. He's got a deal with Malbon Golf. He wore a Birds of Georgia-themed outfit yesterday. He's expected to wear a bird watcher-themed vest in his practice rounds this week. Tone it down. Don't be too loud out there. This is Augusta.
Well, this is golf. They don't normally. Shirt's got to be tucked in. You got to wear. They haven't got on the new groovy trend in allowing shorts. Could you imagine if they allowed shorts? Oh my gosh.
The world would everything would stop. Race Creek would stop running. Not that it's running that fast.
How about Dawson's Creek? Is that still running?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Brian Taylor's at Augusta. Real Golf Radio will check in with us coming up at 8:30 this morning. DJ and PK.
#NHL.
Utah Mammoth down to the last 6 games of the year. 5 of them at home, including tonight. The Edmonton Oilers come in. Puck drop set for 7:30. This one's on ESPN and 1280 The Zone. Mike Folta on the call. Mike is going to join us coming up at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. The Mammoth haven't beaten the Oilers. Time to break through, especially since they might see each other for a first-round series here, depending on how things work out down the stretch. Edmonton's in a 3-way battle for the division title in the Pacific, and it looks like the Mammoth will probably play whoever finishes first in that division. And more late-season firings. Always fire somebody right before the playoffs. The Devils send general manager Tom Fitzgerald packing after 5+ seasons in charge. Led him to the playoffs twice, but he's out. What is Trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. All right, Mike coming up at 8 o'clock. Brian Taylor at 8:30. The question of the day is next. Stay with us.
This is JJ and Alex. I got this.
And the Mammoth obviously have a lot of work cut out for them still, because they are now at a point where, again, I hate looking at the percentages, JJ. Doesn't it make you nervous to go, yeah, right now they sit at 76.5% to be that wild card 1 team. There's so much hockey still left to be played.
Yeah, that percentage can drop quickly if you lose 4 straight again. Overall, you're looking at where this team is at. They're in that number 1 wild card spot. They control their own destiny. I would rather be in that number 1 wild card spot than in the number 3 central spot, because if you're the Wild, you're either playing the Avalanche or the Stars in the first round. round. That's brutal.
It is.
I would rather be the Mammoth. You're going to be playing a first-round playoff series against the Ducks, and then you get the winner of the Oilers and Knights in the next round. I'd rather do that than get the Stars or Avalanche in the second round. If they're in that number one wild card spot with as good as that team is, there's a path for them to go on a long run in the playoffs, not just win a series.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Question of the morning, hot takes or toast? Why do players have to announce they're re-signing with the school they are from? How come we just can't assume you're staying like we always used to assume, PK? Why does this have to be such big news? Hector, to show they got more money to stay.
I don't know that every
David.
decision is money. I can't say that. Every single one, every last one is just I'm going to take the most money no matter what.
David says everyone's seeking attention. It's a look-at-me attitude. Clinton thinks it's attention-seeking, a generation raised on likes and social media.
Is it
A
the
factor?
individual or is it the school putting it out?
Oh, see, I do think the school wants it out there. Chris says it can settle the nerves of fans and boosters. And does it help the coach? Because now they can recruit to these, hey, we got this player back, we got that player back, we're going to be pretty good. You want to be here. So, yeah, I can see where there could be a little self-interest in the school, whether it's connecting with donors, selling season tickets, getting people to write more NIL checks, or getting a player to come, whether it's a high school player or a transfer.
See, I think that in some cases that you are giving up maybe more money. Let's take the case of Mason Falslev. I don't have specific details, but just follow me here for the sake of argument, right? He could go to – he's a very good player, right? A box score stuffer kind of kid. Across the board, he manages to do well and everything, right? Assists, rebounds, points, blah, blah, blah. And so he's heading into his senior year, I believe, right? So he just finished his junior year, obviously. And so he could probably get more money, fill in the blank. We know who has a lot of money available, right? The Kentuckys of the world. But with him staying through, has he ever had the same coach? Different coaches every year, practically. You know, you hear about the coordinators changing, like Alex Smith had 7 coordinators in his first 7 years in the NFL. So he stays there, and he is a local kid, and they've had a lot of success. And this past season was a highlight season, justifiably so, for Utah State basketball. You won the league, you won the conference tournament, you won a game, and then you competed against a team that was in the Final Four, right? Excellent season. He's a local young man. He becomes a local hero. So now, I don't know what he's going to do. Does he want to go overseas and play? Maybe he does. But at some point when he's in that community, it's like Jimmer with BYU. You hear Jimmer doing commercials for car dealerships. Yak and I were just talking about it. What was it, last week?
Yep.
Yeah, saying, okay, this guy lives over in Denver. His wife's family is from Denver. So they decide to settle there, right? And then he ends up with Frashilla, who lives down at the Springs where they have the Olympic stuff, so he's involved in the 3-on-3. That came about. But he still has a presence here. We saw it with Ty Detmer for a number of years, being able to do endorsements here, even though he was living down in Texas, right? And so Falslep then can make more money living off his resume at Utah State in the Cache Valley area. Clearly he can. He'll always be a popular figure because he had multiple chances to leave, and with new coaches, you could sort of understand it, but each time he says no. So even if he doesn't get as much money in the long term, it could pad his bank account, and I hope it does for him if that's what he wants.
He literally has had a relationship with all 6 of the coaches they've had over the last 10 years. He was such a big deal in high school. He was getting recruited very early, and Tim Duryea started the recruiting on him. So, yeah, to your point about sticking through all those coaches, he has lasted through every single one, whether it was his high school recruitment. I think he did a year before he went on his mission, then red shirts comes back. So he stuck all of those out. He's an Aggie through and through. And that'll pay off for him.
And then that means something to people. And it means something more than ever.
Yes,
You can
it's always,
say that
It's always
now.
meant something. It's always meant something,
Yeah.
but there's just so few of those guys. And actually with Templin, now they'll have 2 of them. Now the difference is Templin is from Texas, so I
Right.
don't know if he's going to settle in the Cache Valley. He could.
If he's smart, he
See how that
will.
plays out. Yeah, right. We've seen athletes go. And it doesn't matter, pro, college, wherever have your most success, right?
Yeah.
Darrell Griffith went back to Louisville. He had more success there than he had with the Jazz.
Oh, yeah, won an NCAA title, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So
Pace and Thurl are here. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he won the NCAA title. Pace and Thurl are here. So, yeah. Mark Eaton stayed here. There's another guy.
it's just a smart decision, and you like to see it in the current climate, having him do that. And he could make more money. So it is funny, though, that they have to put out re-signed, which just indicates, by using the word re-signed, that also indicates that we're in a new world. Because it's not, you don't have to, you didn't have to re-sign, but here saying you re-sign takes on a pro meaning. And that's the way it is now. So it should be re-signed, because it is, in very real sense, a professional agreement, basically.
Alex says, I don't know why they do it, but as an Aggie fan, Mason and Carson are coming back for their final years. I couldn't be happier.
If I'm an Aggie fan, I agree.
They want it done. Yeah. You're right. It generates enthusiasm in the fan base, so anything you can do in the offseason to do that, well, of course do that. Keep that team front and center, because you're still out there recruiting, you're still out there raising money.
So innocent and pure in a world, in a sport where innocence and purity don't exist that much.
Are out the window.
Yeah.
Russell, college sports is whack, and it's starting to turn people away.
But
not at the schools that are winning.
But
just at the schools that are losing.
The metrics don't indicate that that's true. Right now. Can I say it's the same in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? No. But right now, it seems to be that the angst, which is there, is not something that is having such a negative effect.
And there are many effects. Like, this is one new thing, but teams draw for different reasons. You were just talking in the last segment about how you heard, I don't know where, MLB Network or MLB Radio or somewhere. They were talking about, is baseball really going to work? They had a big crowd in Tampa in the stadium when they put the new roof on and all that. But could it really become San Diego? I'm like, well, San Diego's attendance spiked, and there were 2 things that happened because everything around the Padres changed. One, the ownership decided to spend a lot of money on the team. Nobody in Tampa Bay has decided to do that. That excited the people. It was partly bringing guys in, but it was partly paying the guys who were there so they didn't leave. And the second thing is the NFL team left, so all of the energy surges into the baseball team as they spend this money. Well, the Rays in Tampa Bay are still competing with an NFL team. The Bucks are right there. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of interest, and a lot of cash. Oddly, I happen to know a Tampa Bay Bucks season ticket holder, and they bill them 12 months out of the year. It's just always on your credit card. Your ticket price is spread out, and you're paying in advance, and it's just the way it is. So there's way more competition. Don't we see that with some schools? You know, how much is your school winning? Is your school good at football? Are you in the shadow of pro teams, or are you away from them? If there are pro teams, they play a different season. I mean, when we do see empty stands, there are other reasons other than NIL. It doesn't necessarily have to come down to, hey, there's these new rules and players are getting paid out in the open, going through the front door, not the back door, as one coach told us.
Yeah, but I think it boils
so I don't know
down
you can
to
put it,
it boils down to winning. And winning is what it's about.
BYU and Utah State go to the NCAA tournament, and their buildings are packed. Utah State's nowhere near the NCAA tournament. Their building is empty.
Yeah, you mean Utah, but
you can.
If you win, people show up. It's really not that complicated. You have to find ways to win.
Where are the winners who are drawing poorly?
In the college game, I don't know. Stanford maybe when they were winning. But I'd have to go back and check because they had a great run there for a while, and it's been a few years now that they haven't, and they have pathetic attendance. So I mean, you could argue that they the people aren't sports oriented there. They go to Stanford, and you have to hit the books, and they're interested in their engineering or nuclear science or whatever stuff that I couldn't even sniff a passing grade in, and the community hasn't rallied around it. So, that's maybe a pro area as opposed to a college area. But I still think if you win, you're probably going to be okay, and there's going to be interest. And that's going to lead to more interest. Strong interest only does one thing. It leads to stronger interest. And you're seeing it with BYU, that we had a number of people complain about them raising the ticket prices as if they're supposed to be different. I mean, there's church leaders that they get all caught up and they have to wear suits wherever they go, and they want to tell you that they're different. And to a degree, they are different. But there's also way more similarities with everybody else than some of these BYU folks would like to admit. And jacking up the ticket prices is one of them, right?
Similarity.
And they should jack them up. If supply and demand, that's the great deal in this country. If I can get X amount of dollars and people are going to pay them, and apparently people are paying them, will you expect BYU to lower the prices just because they're different? No. If they lower the prices because they're different, they wouldn't be different. They'd be stupid.
And there's somebody standing in line just in case someone doesn't renew for whatever reason. Can't afford it, doesn't want to pay it.
Yeah.
Moves to the East Coast, whatever it is. There's someone else to plug in there. The building will be full next season.
Yeah, and in football, yeah. I mean, you can argue for the Cougars right now, the combo of the two sports, all-time high.
Yeah, I can see why you would say that. I mean, the only thing to compare, maybe Lavelle probably was going 11-1 about the time Danny Ainge was going through Notre Dame. Be the only thing close.
Yeah, I assume there was then. And at that point, the Jazz weren't very good. And so there wasn't a lot of attention directed toward them.
Right.
But that might as well have been 500 years ago. And how much has changed now.
Yeah. It was 45 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Right. And the Jazz had not had anything close to a stronghold that they have now. So, and away we go. And the area, too, has grown. So there's more people, more with the internet and the opportunity to develop businesses, more entrepreneurs there. We used to call it quarterback U. I always call it entrepreneur U. But I would never write it because I can't spell entrepreneur, and it's impossible to spell. I mean, you have no idea how to spell that one. So with that in mind, there's so much more available. And so we hear that things are going down and interest. And to a degree, some people. But, you also get a new breed of people who don't know anything else. And this is what they've been brought up with. Kenny Dillingham talks about that all the time. If you don't like it, that's on you, because this is the way it's going. Even while he says in the next breath, as Kyle says, this can't continue the way it is. But I got two guys. I got one guy at the end and one guy just starting, right? There's a 30-year difference between those two guys in age, right? But yet they both have the same approach and say virtually the same thing. Oh, this can't continue at this pace. The old guy says it, the young guy says it. Meanwhile, they're diving full speed ahead, even though they know it can't continue. But rather than sit there and whine about it, you got to make the best of it. So when they're in the reflective mood, they say it. But when they're in the actual day-to-day thing, it's roll up the sleeves and deal with it and put the best product that you can put out on the field or court. That's the only way to approach it.
It's like watching marathoners and they're sprinting. We can't keep this up, but I'm afraid to let the pack break away, so I'm going to keep sprinting.
Yeah.
What will that mean a mile from now? I don't know. I might run out of gas, but I better not slow down now because these guys will disappear over the hill.
And I actually enjoy the philosophical discussions and conversations that both of those guys have because it's real interesting. Older, younger. One, not to say he's this year, but obviously he's got way fewer years ahead of him than he does behind him. And it's the other way around with Dillingham. He's got way more years ahead of him than he's already had, and they say the same stuff. And that, to me, when I listen to both of those guys talk like that, that brings tons of credibility because they're not whining about it. They're not saying, this is why I can't win. No, you don't ever hear that out of either of those guys. They're just telling it like it is while trying to get the money to be able to field the most competitive team possible. So that has tons of credibility in my mind because it's not making excuses. Neither one of them ever make excuses about winning or losing, right? They say, this is what happened. Here's why we won. Here's why we lost. And on the other tone, when it's in a midweek deal or what have you, they'll tell you this is a crazy pace and there's got to be some changes.
It reminds me of Majerus 25 years ago complaining about conference basketball teams.
Yeah, I thought about bringing that
terrible.
up, but I didn't want to bring that up. That was 30 years ago.
But it's if you're going to complain when you win. It carries more, or not complain.
But they're not complaining. That's the point.
Say the negative, but say the negative when you're winning.
Well, they're telling it like it is. If it's negative, so be it.
But if you're losing at that point, then it can sound like complaining.
Well, it's an excuse.
Yeah.
And fans don't want to hear excuses.
But if it's teams that are near the top of the league, then they can say it.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle said it when he was 5-7, and he said it when they were 11-2. And so nothing has changed. So that means it's real. And it has turned some people off. But nevertheless, away they go.
But can it sustain it? And really, when we hear them say that it can't be sustained, is that because it's changing so fast, it's hard for them to, the expression, wrap your mind around it?
Well, I don't think it's changing fast anymore. I think that this is the system. It's just the money's going up.
And they got to raise more of it.
Yeah.
And how are they going to do that? And they don't know, but just go out and try to raise it today, and then go out and try to raise it tomorrow.
Right. This is the system.
The day after.
The system is here. The system isn't really changing last year to this year, right?
No, they just do their tweaks about when a window opens or how long it opens.
Yeah, and that's cosmetic.
But it's still, kids are still transferring and kids are getting a lot of money plus 10%.
And we're having X amount, hundreds or thousands. And so that has been the reality now for a few years. So here's the system. And fans say it's turning me off. And individually, there's no doubt about it. It has. I mean, it's not turned me off, but and I'm already jaded to begin with. I've been jaded since about 2 hours into this existence we call life. And here we are. I'm more jaded, right? My jadedness is basically, who's Texas Tech going to play in the conference title game in football? That's jaded.
They're not getting left out.
And the reason why we're going that way is not completely, but largely cash. Good for them.
Yeah. You have to have good people and spend it wisely, but you better have the cash. And they do. And they apparently have some people who know what they're doing doling it out. So they're getting it to the right guys. Getting into the high draft picks. All right, DJ and PK, stay with us. More in a moment. Michigan wins it all. Mike Folta is here at the top of the hour. We're going to the Masters at 8:30. It's all ahead right here on The Zone.
Just a bunch of guys sitting around and talking sports. This is Scotty G and friends.
Tony Jones from The Athletic. When you get blown out at home by a team that lost 16 in a row, I applaud that lack of effort. That was impressive by the Jazz.
The lengths that the Jazz are going to pull this off and to make sure that they keep that pick. I got to say, this is the best front office in the league at this point. I'm all in. Because they're going to keep their pick, all right? They're going to get a top 5 pick. Listen, You ready for me to get wild on here?
Let's
go.
go.
I'm going to get
Let's do
wild
it.
on this show.
Let's do it.
If the Utah Jazz get A.J. Dybantsa, they're winning an NBA championship within 3 years.
Lloyd, you rolling on that? Lloyd's got
Lloyd, you got that?
Wow.
Catch Scotty G and Friends weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest, and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. DJ and PK, the national title game is in the books. Michigan wins it all, and their starting five are all transfers. Is this what we want for college basketball? And the answer is basically no. As Gary says, no, but it is what it is right now.
Well, you know what's interesting? Because that's a fact that they are all transfers, right? You can't argue that. That's literally a absolute fact. It's impossible to argue about it, right? But one of the things that I wouldn't say argue, but point out is that one transfer was from UAB, right? All right, not exactly a basketball powerhouse. And then you've got another transfer who sat on the bench for UC Los Angeles, right? And he played 13 minutes a game. And now look at him, man. He's looking like, I'm speaking to the Mar kid. I think he's from Spain. And he's worked himself into, it looks like he's going to be a draft pick. Doesn't it look like a little bit of a Mark Eaton story there?
Late bloomer.
Well,
big
same
guys.
school.
It happens. Yeah, you see.
Decades apart, but sat on the bench. Now, he ends up transferring. I don't know, Mark would have maybe. The rules obviously were different in those days.
Right.
So you just wonder, okay, it sounds bad, but it's true. And then they had a non-starter at Illinois. And then you brought up the Cadeau kid, the one I said is from West Orange. He was basically run off at North Carolina.
So if you're not wanted or if you're buried on the bench, why can't you transfer? That's not exactly, hey, we missed on all the recruits, but we got the most NIL money, so let's just go get the conference player of the year from 5 different conferences and build a team.
Yeah, right, exactly. Even if it's a lower conference.
Right.
Because conference MVPs in lower conferences are probably pretty good players.
Yeah, Scotty G was saying that that False Live Stain is the first time the Mountain West Conference Player of the Year has returned to his school. Obviously, he won't return to the league because the league's realigning. But it's the first time he's returned to the school since Sam Merrill.
Well, yeah, last year was Dent at New Mexico, and he went to play for Cronin over there in Westwood. Yeah. And then I don't remember beyond that, but I remember last year.
Well, and also you have seniors winning it, so they automatically wouldn't return. But nonetheless, there is a whole bunch of, if you can make an all-league team at a lower level, whatever it is, somebody's waiting to poach you. You could choose to return, but you can move on. Just make all conference. They're absolutely going to be looking for you. But in this case, Michigan finds 2 guys that they think they can make work at. They were not exactly starring at North Carolina and UCLA, so now they got a championship. So you can't lump them all together, to your point.
You can't, but even if you wanted to, as I understand it, the TV ratings, which somehow became years ago the most important thing ever, the freaking TV ratings. Your boy Hurd always used to talk about it. The TV ratings. And I know Scotty's gone after that Clay Travis guy who constantly talks about TV ratings. To me, TV ratings, and I get it, it's a business, so they do matter. It's just that they don't matter for me. I watch what I watch, and if other people don't want to watch it, what do I care? But the TV ratings are setting records. So the public, while claiming this is turning me off, the numbers don't jive.
Well, typically, it's hard to believe someone would take a half-truth to social media. I find that stunning. I think it's a couple different things here. I think where it turns people off is when they're following the local team and they feel like they knew their team and they watch their guys progress. Maybe they watch them progress from high school, when you're recruiting locally. But certainly, Andre Miller didn't grow up here locally, but people watched him play for 5 years. Jimmer Fredette didn't grow up here locally, but people watched him play and progress for 4 years. So with your local team, do you want to see these guys progress and their story? And when you're watching a national game,
that's junior high stuff. Who cares?
You didn't know Michigan anyway. You don't know all their guys and all their stories. You don't know UConn and all their guys and all their stories. So you flip it on, you're watching the brands at that point. So I think when it gets these national tournaments and championships and how many people watch the title game, and you watch the title game because it's the only thing on. You're not sitting there because you know the storylines for all the guys on the team.
Okay, fine. And in the local, BYU, we just talked about it. They jacked up the prices, and the place was packed. And they didn't have any local guys.
It's all about the winning, baby.
Saunders was the only local guy. Right. That's it.
But I think when you hear people complain, that's the thing that they complain about.
Yeah, but everybody complains about something, but there's no substance beyond the complaining.
There are definitely people who are complaining, and then they plunk their money down and buy their ticket and go in.
Or they sit in front of the television, apparently.
Or sit in front of the TV and watch and cheer.
And if BYU was in the Final Four, the BYU fans would have been going nuts. And it wouldn't have mattered that at that point, suppose they got it together, minus Baker, minus Saunders. They would have had no LDS guys, nobody from Utah, and nobody would have cared.
Bedlam.
That's
Chaos.
3 nobodies in a row. And I'll add a 4th nobody because PK's the one saying it, and he's the ultimate nobody.
That's not true. I heard another story about that yesterday. But anyway. All right, DJ and PK, we got to take a break. When we come back, Mike Folta, radio play-by-play voice of the Utah Mammoth. Can they finally beat the Edmonton Oilers? The playoff push against the team they might face in the first round of the playoffs. That's next. Stay with us. DJ PK, and we're joined by Mike Folta, radio play-by-play voice of the Utah Mammoth. Mike, good morning.
Victory is mine. Victory is mine. Good day in the morning to you people. Victory is mine. Church League softball absolutely dominated last night, fellas. Got the job. Three for 5 at the plate. I tried to hit a homer the last at-bat, and I popped out. Also, I stepped on the wrong side of the bag once going down to first, so they called me out for that. But single, double, home run. Pretty good day at the plate for the kid. So I drank from the keg of glory this morning.
No triple, huh? The wheels just aren't there like they used to be? It's not going to be able to leg anything out?
Hey, turning the bases, like rounding a base is a skill that I never really had, but it's been entirely lost now.
Okay, are you the Caucasian Barry Bonds or you're roided up?
I'm natural, PK. I'm natural up there, and you know what? I'm not really a Bonds type. I'd be more of an Ichiro. I'm a bit of a slap hitter and run it out.
Well, then why'd you go for the long ball? Are you being selfish?
I was. We were up, I think, 30-1, so I thought I'd tempt one.
All right. Will the Utah Mammoth be up 30-1 on the Edmonton Oilers? A team. Why can't they beat the Oilers? Yeah, what's the deal?
30-1. If it's 30-1, you might have to roll me out on a gurney after all those goal calls. But a big one tonight against Edmonton, and yeah, you're poking at it, DJ. Mammoth have never beat the Oilers. In fact, you look at the box scores, and there haven't really been a ton of close games, even going back to last year. Utah lost 6-3 in October against these guys, and then 5-2 against Edmonton again on March 24th. It's funny. We lost 5-2 to the Oilers. Connor McDavid, the best player in the world, had 2 goals. And we're all standing around after the game saying, I think we played pretty well against McDavid. We did pretty well. And I think, guys, that's a sign of greatness is when a player's production doesn't impress you anymore. It's only his artistic ability that catches your eye. And McDavid has had 2 goals each of the last 2 games against the Mammoth. And at least last game, we were sitting there thinking, well, we didn't really let him break loose, and he still had 2 goals. But, guys, if the playoffs started today, this would be the round 1 matchup for the Utah Mammoth against these very same Edmonton Oilers that have been to the Stanley Cup Finals each of the last 2 seasons.
I know what you're saying, Mike. I mean, I've spun so many great radio segments over the last almost quarter of a century that they're taken for granted now. It's just like, oh, he does it again, you know? So I relate to what you're talking about on CMAC there. I can understand. Now, you brought up the great hitting, and you had 30 runs. And I've always thought in baseball, hitting, not softball, not church league softball, but real baseball, that hitting is contagious. They string together 17 hits in a game, and it just like everybody's confidence just surges, and they go up to the plate, and maybe the pitching sucks at that point, and they feel like I'm going to do it. Now, you relate this to hockey, and where I'm going with this is the goals for the Mammoth. 19 goals in the last 3 games, 4 more goals in 7 of the last 9 games. Is goal scoring contagious, or what's going on?
Hey, if it's contagious, then this team is infected because you said it. 19 goals over the last 3. It's been a shooting gallery in the offensive zone for the Mammoth the last few games, and look, the last couple games they haven't played the best competition. Mammoth have won 3 in a row. They beat the LA Kings on a night where the Kings were really flat. They beat a struggling Seattle team, and they beat the worst team in the league, the Vancouver Canucks. So tonight, the competition is going to increase in a huge way. It's going to go from 25 mile an hour school zone to the highway, 80 miles an hour on I-15 against the Oilers. But I love the way that this team is getting it done from a variety of guys, and I think we've seen as the stars of this team go, so the rest of the team goes. The Mammoth are getting some really good depth scoring right now, but boy, when Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz and Mikhail Sergachev and Dylan Gunther and Logan Cooley, when those guys are producing offensively, this team feels invincible. And it feels like it raises the level of everybody else around them. And so I look to the captain. I look to number 9 to lead the way. He's been really good recently. Had himself a hat trick on Saturday against Vancouver, and he kind of seems to be the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. When he's going, this team is going, and he's been going recently. So is it contagious? It seems like it recently, but again, the competition is going to step up in a big way tonight.
Edmonton has a familiar name in goal, Connor Ingram. Obviously, there were some issues off the ice. He was away from the team last year, and everybody was wishing him well in his personal life, and everybody's got struggles in the journey, and it turns out his journey has made him the number 1 goaltender in Edmonton. Did you see that coming? What level of surprise is there around the league the way this has worked out? Not just has worked out, but worked out this quickly.
Yeah, it is surprising. It is surprising. But at the same time, Connor Ingram, when he was traded to Edmonton by the Mammoth back on October 1st, we knew he was an NHL caliber goaltender. We had seen him last year. He played 22 games for what was then the Utah Hockey Club. He had played in Arizona and been a more than serviceable goaltender. Led the league in shutouts a couple of years ago. So we knew he was an NHL quality goaltender, and it's interesting that general manager Bill Armstrong and the Mammoth basically did Connor Ingram a service by giving him an opportunity to play with a new team. They're like, there's not a future with you here in Utah, and Connor had been struggling with some stuff off the ice, as you alluded to. And was trying to get the help that he needed. And the Mammoths gave him an opportunity and a fresh start in a new organization, which apparently is what he needed. Now, goaltending in Edmonton has long been kind of one of the running jokes of the NHL. They've got 2 of the best players in the world, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And, it's just a rotating door at goaltender. They traded for Tristan Jarry, who was a longtime goalie with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was even worse than the previous guy they had. They've run Edmonton natives out of town. They've traded for guys, and now they traded for Connor Ingram. And the Mammoth retained salary on Connor Ingram so that Edmonton could basically fit him in the salary cap and also move him down to the minor leagues without having to put him on waivers. He's a Saskatchewan guy, so he's from Western Canada. So playing in Edmonton, he's a little bit closer to home. He's from a small town of about 400 people in Rome, Saskatchewan. But he's a little bit closer to home playing in Edmonton. And he is, I don't want to say he's turned into, 2024 or 2004 Dominic Hasek or 2007 Martin Brodeur, but he's given them just enough. And guys, they're playing really well in front of him too. There was a pretty funny soundbite a few nights ago when he had a shutout, and they interviewed him on Sportsnet, and he tells the reporter, he's like, I didn't really do much tonight. So this team is playing well in front of him, and he's an NHL caliber goaltender, as we know, that is living up to the billing.
I'm not a big statement game kind of guy in the regular season because I think you make statements in the playoffs. But could I argue that the Mammoth really need to show well in this game as opposed to if Edmonton loses is like for their perspective, so what?
Yeah, I've been struggling with the label of this game, PK, because we heard from one of the players, Alexander Kerfoot, he called this week, 3 games at home this week, he called this week the most important week of the year. Mammoth have not clinched yet,
right?
But they're really close to, and they could clinch as early as this week. But I'm looking at this game and I'm like, is this the game of the year? Because it's not a team that's chasing you in the standings, right? Like some other games have been, but it does feel like a big statement. You've just beat some teams that aren't as good, and now you're facing the team that you very well could be seeing in the first round, and you've never beaten them. So you have this juxtaposition of like the reigning Western Conference champion Edmonton Oilers with the glitz and glam of Connor McDavid, a team that has been to the far reaches of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you have the upstart Mammoth. And kind of pitting those two things against each other, it's a really fascinating clash. So I'm not ready to put it on like game of the year status, but statement game. I think absolutely. Like, you have not been able to play with these guys. Who the last couple games you've seen Edmonton, they've been the class of the Western Conference the last 2 years, and you've not been able to skate with them. Can you do that here tonight at the Delta Center? On national television? It's going to be a 7:30 puck drop. We call the national TV games, we call those radio exclusives. If you want a local broadcast, you're tuning into us on EKSL Sports Zone. So I think it's absolutely a statement game to try and beat a team that you never have before, to respond to the increase in competition and to show that you can play with a team that has been the best team in the Western Conference, at least in the playoffs, the last 2 years.
There are some trends that hold true across sports, college and professional, especially with the college game becoming more professional. Excuse me. Michigan is the number one defensive rating in the country, and they win the college basketball championship. Your arch rival Indiana Hoosiers, defensively, number 4 in yards allowed, number 2 in points allowed. They have an undefeated season. They win the championship. The top 4 NBA teams in defensive rating right now are first and second in the East and first and second in the West, and they have the 4 best win totals in the entire league. So when you mentioned earlier that the Mammoth have been pretty good defensively, so when they score goals, it's like they're unbeatable. At 218 goals allowed this season is 3rd best in the West. Is that indicative of where you think this team would, or should be going in the postseason? Or one of the best defensive teams, and we're seeing how this is playing out across multiple sports. Do you find that it holds true in the NHL?
I think it does to some extent. I think the bigger piece to the defensive question is goaltending when you get to the playoffs. We were just talking about the Edmonton Oilers, and they kind of won in spite of their goaltending, or they got to the finals in spite of their goaltending. And they were changing goalies like in the Stanley Cup finals last year. I mean, they still didn't know who their best choice in net was. Whereas the back-to-back Stanley Cup winning Florida Panthers have a guy who's probably a future Hall of Famer in Sergei Bobrovsky, and he had an okay regular season, but he turned it on in the playoffs and was really good. in the postseason for Florida when they needed him. And so I think the goaltending is a big part of that. I think also special teams is huge, guys. And the Edmonton Oilers pretty much all season have had the best power play in the NHL. But last year in the postseason, they had a historically good penalty kill. And so even though the goaltending was just kind of so-so for them throughout the playoffs last year, their penalty kill was so good. They played so well in front of Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard that they were able to mitigate some of that, and that helped them win close games. And that's the thing, guys, over a 7-game series in the postseason, you're going to have to win a game like 5-4, and you're also going to probably have to win a game 2-1, or at least you're going to have to be able to do both over the course of a 7-game series, and certainly over the course of multiple 7-game series. And so I think with Utah scoring as much as they are, it's fun to see them win these high-scoring games that I think we all knew they were capable of. But they also got to be able to win the 1-0, 2-1 games. And Karel Vejmelka is more than capable of stealing you games in the postseason. I think he's been good for most of this season. There have been a couple little dips, but he's a pretty consistent guy, pretty level-headed guy. And I think heading into a 7-game series with Veggie makes you feel pretty good knowing what he's done this year and last year here in Utah.
When Edmonton clinches the playoff, it's probably ho-hum. How do you think it's going to be, and I'm going to say when, the Mammoth clinch? You think it'll be a big celebration?
I think it will be. I'm really hoping it's here on this homestand so we can have a little celebration. You look at a lot of the analytics folks and their percentages, their calculations. They're giving Utah like a 98, 99% chance to win or to get to the playoffs. But all you have to do is look at those little charts that ESPN puts out all the time, like the percentage to win graphs, where it's like 99% when Duke has the ball in the closing seconds, and then it flips very quickly to 99% to UConn after Mullins hits the three. So you can't put a ton of stock into those percentages, and that's why Kerfoot said that this week is the biggest week of the year, because you're really close. You've worked hard to get in a good spot, but you're not there yet. And all the Mammoth can do is try to win these next 3 games. And they're 3 big games. Edmonton, a team you could face in the playoffs. Nashville on Thursday. That's a divisional opponent. That's a team that's chasing you as well. And then the Carolina Hurricanes, who are one of the favorites to get to the Stanley Cup Finals out of the Eastern Conference on Saturday night. So 3 really big games, 3 games that are not going to be easy. It's great competition this week, and it's going to be a ton of fun. I'm expecting a big celebration. Did you guys see the partial reveal of the new Zamboni on social media? The Utah Mammoth put out like a little teaser video of what looks to be some kind of Mammoth-themed ice resurfacer. Can't wait for that.
Ice resurfacer.
Well, that's a technical term. Zamboni's a brand. It's like Kleenex.
Yeah,
right?
I gotcha. And my wife always says, could you get me a Kleenex? And I say, no, but I can get you a tissue.
We're fresh out of Kleenexes, but we've got 10 boxes of tissues here.
Exactly.
Well, you probably buy the Kirkland brand anyway, so no name brands for you, right, PK? You play the Kirkland signature ball?
I don't, but when I go out, I look for balls, and invariably, if I find 6, 3 of them are Kirkland's.
Our TV guy, Matt McConnell, exclusively plays Kirkland's. He's got a Kirkland glove. He might even have Costco clubs, too.
Really?
But he loves the Kirkland ball.
Oh, okay.
Hey, give him some help for that, okay? Because I do, but he would love to hear it from you guys.
All right, we'll leave it right there, Mike. Congratulations on the Church League softball. I'm not sure if you want to brag about another Big Ten title because it's not a Purdue title. I don't know. Maybe it pains you to watch Michigan win, but the Big Ten, you're on top of the world.
It does, and that's how I'm consoling myself is that, the Big Ten drought is over, and we can kind of put that narrative to bed. But I think, what is it, women's basketball football
UCLA?
and men's basketball.
All three.
And Michigan and Wisconsin are both in the Frozen Four in Vegas this weekend, so it could be another time.
Right. And Michigan's going to win it in football next fall or winter, I guess.
Please.
And the Bruins are ranked number one in baseball right now. If you're interested in college baseball,
put Purdue in the Pinstripe Bowl. I'll be happy. That's all I want.
Yankee Stadium.
Pinstripe Bowl. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'll see you.
All right, DJ and PK, there's Mike Folta, the radio voice of the Utah Mammoth. It is the Big Ten's world, PK, and we're just watching them win.
Well, I mean, obviously in football and basketball, that jumps out at you.
Yeah.
I think that, UCLA women, it was no surprise. I mean, we've been talking about them all year, that they were going to be dominant, and they were. But it doesn't really still feel like Big Ten to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, they rented that one.
Yeah. But football and basketball, they can claim it big time. Obviously, those are two long-standing members of the Big Ten, probably since its inception. I don't know, I assume. But the women's basketball still feels a little West Coast-ish. Especially, hold on a second, because Close, the coach, she's been talking a lot about her relationship with John Wooden, and how Lavin was a grad assistant. And I heard this story. He was a grad assistant at the time, or restricted earnings, whatever they were called back then. And they were all going to go over to Coach Wooden's place in Encino on a Tuesday night. And he says to her, you're coming with us. I want you to be a part of this. And she goes over and establishes a relationship with him at that point, Coach Wooden. And obviously he's since passed. And so as I'm listening to this story, I'm thinking, I just can't grasp Big Ten with this. This just does not seem right. And I've accepted all these changes, but thinking Big Ten while I'm hearing her talking about the men's team and the relationship she had with Coach Wooden and the pyramid of success and blah blah blah. I'm not accepting Big Ten on this one.
John Wooden was an All-American at Purdue, and he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame for that. Big Ten people just keep bringing it back to the Big Ten.
Well, I can live with that as a player for sure.
Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to Augusta, Georgia. Bob Casper and Brian Taylor there for Real Golf Radio. We'll talk with Brian right after the break, and we'll qualify another golfer in our Copper Rock giveaway. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Kyle Filipowski deserves a lot of credit. They're trying not to play because he's been too good. So he's only playing 31 minutes, and he's scoring with an incredible efficiency, and he's actually playing tough.
4 straight games with over 20 points. He's been really, really good.
He's played tough enough that he can play big minutes on, not big minutes
as
at
a big.
The big on a contending team. And I wouldn't have told you that was true before the season. He might be 15 minutes a night 5. He might be a good enough 5 that you can wrong foot the other team.
15 minutes a night going into what will be year 3 now, and continue to play bigger. But yeah, I mean, he becomes a very valuable player.
If he can play a little bit at what was traditionally the 4, what is basically a wing, and be good enough defensively, then you've got yourself a stew going. You've got yourself a guy you can use.
Catch Jake and Ben weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ, PK, and the music that puts some people to sleep.
What do we got going here?
I know, right? But makes Brian Taylor sit up straight. It's that time of year. Here comes the Masters. Here comes Brian. Good morning, BT.
Good morning. How are we doing?
We're doing well. Is this just an annual vacation for you? Is this the kind of thing you're just counting down for weeks, months before you take off for Augusta?
I think everybody counts it down. This is my 25th time coming here to Augusta, and that's hard to believe, first of all. Just means I'm getting old. But it's still, you know what? It's still exciting. That's the thing, as we've talked about the last couple of weeks, is whether it's your first time or your 25th time or your 50th time, I think people still get super excited to come back here. There's, we've talked about this for years, DJ, but there's a lot of things in life, and few actually live up to the hype or exceed it, and Augusta's one of those, and they just do such a good job. It's, you show up here and everybody just feels like it's the coolest thing that they've ever experienced, and it's unique. I mean, you don't have cell phones, you don't have electronic scoreboards, you don't have big screen televisions everywhere. Like, you literally are in your environment. It's a unique thing to society today, with not, you have to sit and look around and think. You can't just at the first moment's notice, you just start scrolling on your phone because you have a downtime for a second, right? It's just a whole different feel and a different vibe. And I think people are starting to appreciate that more as we continually get locked into our electronic devices. It's interesting.
Did you see the little interaction that Brooks Koepka had with the media guy?
No, I missed that.
Well, he asked him, the question was, do you think that somebody can shoot a 59 here? And Koepka fired back, have you played the course? and I thought the media member said, he should have said, no, and neither do I live in a multi-million-dollar house. Which would have been a good response. Of course I haven't played it, but he's talking about the idea of being, man, if you shot a 63, that would be incredible. And most of our listeners, I would think the overwhelming majority, have never been there, have never played it, have never walked it, but you have. So you can speak to, why did Koepka think that was he was incredulous that somebody would potentially shoot a 59. He said maybe from the members' tees, but not from where these guys are teeing off. And why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a context thing, right? I mean, it probably sounds ludicrous to ask somebody like Brooks Koepka in this setting at the Masters, but I overheard a conversation earlier this week where somebody was explaining, in the media dining, somebody was explaining to somebody else what par meant. So my ears perked up. I was like, really? I'm like, we're discussing what par means. So, I mean, look, there's varying levels of media that ascend. This is one of the largest events in the world, and I think you get different people that show up here from different media, whatever. Or it could have just been, I didn't see the interaction, could have just been looking for some sort of sensational reaction, what sounds like he got. But John Rahm was just in the interview room and had a chance to listen to him, and he got several questions about the strategic, approach to the golf course and what makes it so difficult, and amen corner and all this different stuff. And, you hear him talk about it, and it just reminds you that like, we look at it and say, okay, it's a par 5 that a lot of people eagle. Let's look at 13, for instance. He started describing it, but he goes, it's important. You obviously want to hit a big draw around the corner and get yourself in position to go at that green. But if you get it too far down, what you don't see is that those tall pine trees still, their branches overhang enough to where you still have to hit a slinging hook over Rays Creek into a sort of a narrow green from that angle. So he said and oftentimes you're in sort of a side hill downhill lie. So it's a very difficult shot. And the other comment he made is, people always talk about Augusta National being so wide and wide open, but when you get out here and realize that there's certain areas in which you have to position your tee shot in order to be able to have an optimum shot in, it becomes very narrow. And so just to listen to all of that, he also talked about how, he rarely flag hunts. Typically if you want to get close to a pin, you're aiming some other spot, and using the slope and, all these type of things to be able to get the ball close to the hole. And so the nuances that are involved, and then the fact that it's the same golf course, but it doesn't always play the same way. He talked about the firmness of the greens. He talked about the wind and how it swirls through these trees and, all of those things. And so it was pretty cool, right? I did a bunch of study on scoring average, and you think about through 100 rounds, Tiger Woods, 100 rounds here at Augusta. What would you say Tiger's scoring average is, for instance? I mean, what would your thoughts be? Just throw a number out there.
69.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just,
I was going to say, I don't want to say 70.
Yeah, it's like 71, right? And just under 71. So he's just barely a shot under par through 100 rounds. And you just think, Tiger would be in the 60s for sure. That's not the case. It's just so even though Augusta gets a lot of, sometimes criticism, can stand the test of time, today's equipment, better athletes, all that kind of stuff, you're still seeing the best scoring averages barely a shot under par. And it's pretty cool.
It seems like the tour just constantly reinvents itself. There's always some youngster in the mid-20s They don't have all the experience to handle all this nuance at Augusta. But, man, they've been the best players on tour here early in the year, and some guys who are veterans are further down the money list. Would you go with guys who are hot right now, or do you think that all that course knowledge you're talking about, hey, somebody's going to do well this week who may not be having a great, California or Florida swing, but it's Augusta, and the new guys are going to take their lumps?
Yeah, it's interesting. So this is the 40th anniversary of Jack Nicklaus's, historic win in 1986 at the age of 46. And he got his record green jacket that year. So there's a lot of talk about Jack, and so you start to think, well, history often lines itself up around here. Might we see a 45-year-old, win, again, here? And you start thinking about Justin Rose, of course, who's, was lost in the playoff twice, including last year. And then, of course, we remember Fuzzy Zeller, who passed away this past year. And he was the last player to win in his first attempt back in 1979. So then you say, well, with that and Fuzzy's passing, might a first-timer, come through and win for the first time since Fuzzy? And, so you start thinking of all those. And we ran those scenarios, and almost every person says, I take the 45-year-old. It's more likely, even though, Jack was 46 40 years ago, just feels like, that's probably more likely given the experience required and that sort of thing. Having said all that, my pick's Ludwig Oberg. He's played 2 Masters. He finished runner-up in his first attempt, finished 7th last year. I mean, he's this guy. He's been in position. Yeah, he didn't finish well at the Players Championship, but he was in contention there, playing in the final group. He was in contention last week. I just think Oberg, and when you see him, he's like such a you can accuse me of having a man crush on Oberg. That's fine. But the guy is like unbelievable. How could you not want to come back as that guy, right? I mean, he's like 6'2". He hits a ball a mile. He's unbelievable. You would think if you were just betting ponies and you lined Scheffler up and you lined Oberg up, you're probably going to put your money on Oberg, just looking at the two guys, right? And so I don't know. I like his game, and he just doesn't seem to be too phased by much, and you kind of need that around here. And so I could see that. I could see a younger guy, a first-timer. I don't know. I mean, Jacob Bridgman is a heck of a putter, and you look at Goddard, he's the only 2-time winner, multiple-time winner this year, right? This is his first time. It's Jacob's first time, and I just think it's an eyes-wide-open kind of experience for a lot of these guys out here.
Are they doing anything for Faldo because it's the 30th year of his last of 3 Masters that he won?
It's one of the things, what's interesting is I walked into they have a press locker room, and I walked down in there, and I'm looking at these pictures, and I'm seeing a newspaper, and there's all these like old newspapers articles, like front page, blown up, on a frame and everything, and there's Danny Willett, and it's been 10 years since Danny Willett won, and then there's a thing on Faldo, and I'm like, look at that. I mean, there's the thing on Jack, there's all this stuff, right? So they do that. And I asked the attendant, I go, they check this is new, right? They change these. It goes, yeah, they change them out every year. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna start. You'll see that those little milestones are featured around the golf course during the milestone years, like Faldo in '96 and that kind of thing. It's also, interestingly enough, going through those numbers, is it's been 25 years since Tiger completed the Tiger Slam here at Augusta National. So pretty good, by the way. He did have Valhalla in there, which is no shade on Valhalla. But when your slam includes obviously Augusta and then St. Andrews and Pebble Beach, that's a pretty dang good slam, by the way.
Oh, for sure. I don't know there could be a bad one.
Right? Well, that's true. But if you're going to win it, I mean, why not have Augusta, Pebble, and St. Andrews, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have they changed anything there this year? Some years it seems like that's a big storyline. Some years it's not.
Yeah, so they've lengthened 17, I think about 10 yards is all. So not much. Some big changes a few years ago with 13, obviously getting lengthened, that par 5 and stuff. But no major changes this year to the golf course. One of the things that I'm staring out from my little radio perch here from the far end of the range, looking down the range, right behind the grandstands, which are positioned to watch the players practice, is the new Player Performance Center, which they built, just literally from last Masters to this Masters. And this is a place where the players and their families can hang out. There's physio in there. There's restaurant and food. There's a locker room. And so it's phenomenal, like state-of-the-art, unbelievable. And you know what? everybody would give that up in a moment to go to that old little place in the old clubhouse called the Champions Locker Room. But yeah, it's that. Those are some of the new things that for this year.
What's on the menu at the Champions Dinner? Do you know?
Oh man, it's the best menu I think I've ever seen. First of all, how about this starter? Peach and what was the cheese? Some sort of cheese flatbread. And I'm like, okay, you had me at that, right? And then the one that everyone gets hung up on is bacon wrapped dates. And people are going, yeah, I'm not a date guy. No, but think about it. You've ever had like a burger with bacon jam on it? You're basically creating the bacon jam as you bite it. Like, that is what it is. Dates are sweet. You got the bacon on there. I think it's got some goat cheese wrapped in with it. I mean, I'm like, this is brilliant, right? And then he's got this either a salmon fillet or a Wagyu steak fillet. And then, you ready? Kicking it off dessert, sticky toffee pudding. I was in Scotland last year, and there's not a lot to brag about as far as sweets go in Scotland, but the sticky toffee pudding, it's homemade everywhere you go. It's unbelievable stuff. And, yeah, I think this might be one of the best menus I've ever seen. Terrific.
It's a peach and ricotta flatbread with
there
balsamic hot honey and basil.
Oh.
Ooh.
Let's go.
Have you
I'm
ever
going to try to recreate that on the – yeah.
Have you ever had grilled elk sliders before?
That one would be probably the one I'd pass on. Not everybody but me.
Caramelized onion jam. Okay, there's 3 words I've never put together in my life before. Caramelized onion jam.
Sounds amazing. Put that on anything, it'd be good. Except ice cream, maybe.
All right, Brian Taylor and Real Golf Radio brought to you by Mountain America Credit Union, Mountainland Supply, Black Desert Resort, Hoops Vision, and Uinta Golf. Brian, enjoy the week. We know you will.
Thanks, boys. And I'm anxious to see how you do on your picks. Just so you know, I'm going to give you a heads up. Bob's going with Xander Schauffele. So just so you know, just so you guys can get ready.
Okay.
That's his guy. So.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
See you, boys.
Hey, it's time for a Copper Rock Masters giveaway. Be caller 12 right now at 801-575-ZONE, 801-575-9663, and you'll be assigned a player in the field of the Masters this week. Top 25 and the field. If your golfer wins the Masters, you'll win 18 holes for 2 at Copper Rock Golf Course in Hurricane and a $100 gas gift card. It's brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play. DJ and PK, more in a moment. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
Whirls around and down. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone is your exclusive home of the Utah Jazz. And we want to send you to the Delta Center to see the Jazz in action. Listen every Tuesday for the Jazz Ticket Tuesday Sounder at 30 past the hour, every hour, all day long. And if you're caller number 12, you'll be on your way to an upcoming game.
Buy one, you'll get one free.
It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday, every Tuesday throughout the NBA season on your radio home for the Utah Jazz. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Were you properly inspired by the Masters segment there? You feeling it? NCAA tournament's in the books. Time to turn the page and go to Augusta.
Turn the page. Yeah, I'm always inspired, man. This is a great time. You could argue this is the very best week of the year with the different sports. And I always thought the NBA playoffs should start next week, right like next Tuesday or something after the Masters. And we still have a week or so to go before that. But it does get over real quick, and I get the play-in games that they got to do first. But this is the time of year that I believe it's ushering spring in officially, even though it's the calendar says it's been here for a couple of weeks when the Masters is played. It's a must-watch. It's right at the top of my list with stuff that I want to watch, particularly this time of year. It is number one. And then when something else rolls around, I view that as number one. I go with the flow. I'm a very go with the flowable kind of guy. But at heart, David James Snigeldorf III, I am a nobody. And you want to refute that claim.
Yes. I was just hearing about you yesterday.
Did the police stop by?
No, the police did not. It was someone of some significance in this market talking about listening to this very radio show when they had a previous job, 15 years ago. You were a stalwart.
Yeah, but they're listening to you.
Market, PK.
You're the one.
No, I think they're listening to us.
I get in the way, man. That's what I've been told. I get in the way. And I actually revel in getting in the way.
I know you do.
So I don't consider that negative.
You've mentioned that a couple times. You've mentioned that.
I like getting in the way. You talk to a stalwart in the community, or I'm a stalwart?
I was told the story secondhand. Utah State's new athletic director will be coming on our show shortly, I've been told. Scotty G might be trying to help arrange something. And it's a DJ and PK. I listened to those guys when I drove to UVU. So you'd have to look at his resume.
Gotcha.
See what Cam was doing.
This is an extremely exciting time for Utah State. Absolutely, man. And good for them, man. Good for them. They've been in the shadow for so long. I don't think, to an extent they're in the shadow, but they've created their own shadow now. And they are saying, look at us. And I want to look at them. And, I relate to the underdog a little bit. And in this state, they've gone through hard times, but they've come out of the other side of those hard times. And now they have a chance to really make a move there.
There's more than 100 schools playing football, and there's more than 300 schools playing basketball. And like most schools, the Aggies are in the middle. But they have changed their station in the middle. Now, you could argue that some of the moves that they made along the way put themselves in a bad spot. I don't know that going independent and going into the Sun Belt was the best strategy, or as Will Ferrell once said, the best strategery. But they've had a series of people make a series of good decisions over the last 15 to 20 years. They've had good coaches come through in football and basketball. They've invested in their facilities in football and basketball, and now they're investing in NIL. They've made a conference move to the WAC, another to the Mountain West, another to the Pac-12. It looks like at least two of those paid off, and I suspect 3 in a row will. We'll see how it plays out. So there have been a bunch of good decisions made by a variety of people. It's not like they've had, one Chris Hill sitting in a chair for 30 years or one Kyle Whittingham coaching a team for 20 years. They've had people moving through there, but they've all moved the needle pretty consistently in a positive direction here over the last 2 decades. And before that, when we got here, it was a bit of a struggle. They made decisions and people scratched their heads, and they paid for some of those decisions. But that's all well in the rearview mirror now.
Yeah, I was their beat writer for 1 year when they were independent way back when. It was the 2001, because I remember that. Obviously, we remember that year for what happened. But and they had Kevin Curtis was on that team, and they had some pretty good players, but they were kind of independent, and they were independent. It was just sort of no man's land at that point. And now going into this conference, I think with recognized names as an Oregon State and a Washington State, and then Boise. Boise has a brand. It may have slipped a little bit, but they still have a brand. And then I think Gonzaga brings a lot of credibility to the conference in basketball. Everybody knows Gonzaga. If you're a college basketball fan, you know of Gonzaga, right? So if Utah State can compete and beat Gonzaga, that will be a lot of fun there, and it'll bring more attention to your program. And then I think within the industry, people understand Utah State's basketball program has been very good for a number of years, and it's a tough place to play. The place is electric, blah, blah, blah. But all that stuff just leads to more credibility, and as long as you can continue to build on that, they can carve out a name for themselves in the, what do they call it, the group of 5 or 6, depending on the sport, and they have that opportunity to succeed. And particularly, if they're going to give out bids to, when the 2 of them got into the playoff this past season, why can't it be Utah State at some point? I think it has the opportunity to be a realistic goal. It's not that far-fetched. They've got work to do and all that stuff, and see what they can come up. Bronco Mendenhall, a decent first year for him, but he's known as a program builder, right? You can just look at his track record. I want to get him on one of these times and ask him about recruiting when he's out there. To the kids and their handlers, do they understand what you've been able to accomplish once you start getting into year 2, 3, and 4? Because the record is there that he builds and builds well. Yep. And do they know that? We know that, but I'm wondering if recruits know that.
Look it up, people. Look what he did at BYU and at Virginia.
Right.
Virginia was way down, and he got him to an Orange Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely.
Right. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. College basketball is over, and it's changing. And some of it you can stomach, and some of it you can't. We'll get to that next, plus lessons for our local teams. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The Michigan Wolverines are the NCAA men's basketball champions. They beat UConn 69-63. And PK, I know the sport's become all about three-point shooting, but 2 for 15 from 3. That was shockingly bad.
Yeah.
And I know there's obviously the pressure of the championship game. And there's the quality of the other team's defense. And there's the fact that they're playing in an NFL stadium. They're in a dome and the shooting background and the sightlines and perspective and all that stuff. But they didn't have a problem in the semifinal. There was a lot of pressure there. There was a team with even better defensive numbers over the course of the season. There were certainly some nerves, and they were in the same stadium, so I can't exactly explain it. But nonetheless, there it was.
I think it's just shooting.
The nature of a one-off playoff.
I think it's the nature of shooting.
It comes and goes.
Yeah, and you want it to be there more often than not, and usually, for the better shooters it is, but Steph Curry can go 3 for 17 from 3, and we're just going to look, that was a bad game. I mean, it's like having a 4 strikeout game in baseball, and the next game, the next week, you go on a little bit of a tear. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and then you factor in the circumstances. You've gotten this far, and it is so emotional to get to that level, and everybody is just laying it out on the line, whatever they got. I mean, they let that couple of jump balls. You saw jump balls. I was thinking, why we're seeing like an inordinate amount of tie-ups. It's because nobody wants to give an inch. And they're going to give you everything they have. And it's impossible to play at that pace, at that level for 30-some games. But in this game, whatever you got, you're going to do it. And that leads to just everything is just heightened. So I'm not really surprised. I think it's just the circumstance. And they can go out and play their next game, whenever that might be, and light it up. And away you go. And unfortunately for UConn, they couldn't hit enough baskets. I mean, I thought maybe they had a second there. They got a turnover. They got a couple of missed free throws, but then they come down and they just couldn't hit it. And then they hit one that was a bank shot from 3, which, normally you don't do. You don't bank in three-pointers. So that was something. And it's the nature of the game. And UConn still has a phenomenal program. And Michigan, and it's not like they came out of nowhere, but they did suck a couple years ago. And I think they only had like 8 wins. And then this kid comes in there, and they get these transfers, and away you go. And UConn is steady, and Hurley is a phenomenal coach. He's an interesting character. Love watching his facial expressions during the game. That's entertainment unto itself.
More entertaining, Rich Rod or Hurley?
I'd say Hurley, because Rich Rod, I literally worried for his health and his ability to stay alive.
Thought he'd keel over, huh?
Yes, because he looked like he was in explosion mode if things would go sour. And he's trying to build something. It was particularly at Arizona where it hadn't been, they've had some good teams occasionally, but the consistency of winning hasn't been there. And he's trying. They got miserable fan base. The stadium is usually at best half full for most of the games. And so he's trying really hard. And it's just, it's okay. He had that one good season. I think they got the Fiesta Bowl and Boise beat him, but which is the definition of U of A football. And then it goes away, and then it comes back, and then they change coaches, and away we go. Hurley, that's just who he is, a very, very demonstrative, emotional person that you can see out there. And he's this little undersized dude, and if you are one of his guys, you swear by him. If you're not, you swear at him. And I like what I did there.
I was waiting for the punchline. Well, they'll put up with whatever. They're in the title game for the third time in 4 years, and they've won 2 of them. So it's been an awesome run. If they'd won that game somehow, some way at the end, it never seemed like they were going to, and yet they weren't completely out of it, so you couldn't know for sure they weren't going to do something crazy and pull it off. 3 titles in 4 years. I mean, Krzyzewski didn't do that at Duke. North Carolina hasn't done that. And you got to go back to UCLA probably. I mean, that would have been unreal if they pulled that. And UConn is a blue blood now.
They are.
They've had 3 coaches combined to win 6 championships, and they've got other Final Fours and title game appearances mixed in there, and Sweet 16s and Elite Eights and all that stuff. So, and they've also proven that you can break it and rebuild it because they've had really bad years in this 30 years that they've been awesome. But they get down, but they don't stay down. They bounce right back, which you pointed out that's what Michigan just did. They get down, but they bounce right back.
And they're going to put that on my tombstone. He got down, but he bounced right back.
Okay. The lesson for the locals is defense. Our local teams, and we can go crazy over the NBA prospects, and that's fun, and overshooting and scoring, and that's fun, but there's a cliche out there, defense wins championships. Michigan, #1 defensive rating, champion. Seattle Seahawks gave up the fewest points in the NFL in a regular season, champion. Indiana, #2 in points allowed, champion. Now, I'll bet over time there'll be some, Team 8 or Team 10 or whatever, but BYU wasn't in the top 50. Utah wasn't in the top 200. They got to get better than that. It's got to get better, PK. And there got to be a lesson in watching these teams play and who went to the Final Four and who went to the Elite Eight. And it was elite defensive teams. And I know in any one game shooting is fickle and sometimes teams are hot, and that's true. And that's why we don't have undefeated NCAA champions. But on the whole, you got to do everything you can on every possession to minimize the other guy's chances to score. Now, he may stick a shot in your face. It happens. But, man, if you're not a top 50 defensive team, can we really talk seriously about Final Four and Elite Eight? Seems like
probably
a big
not.
ask.
I mean, we have on Ken Pomeroy a lot, and he's got all that stuff that bears it out. And we talked to him last week, and he said he's going with Michigan.
Yeah. And he won. He was right.
Right. I think that is most definitely something that BYU needs to figure out. I think that Kevin Young coming from the NBA, where so many guys are so prolific offensively, it's almost like on the verge of unstoppable. They stop themselves. You don't stop them. And it's easier, I think, to get at that level to get big time shot makers, and so he sees that. I think he's going to have to understand what really wins. And the problem with BYU this past season, from the defensive perspective, is they allowed teams to barely even work up a sweat in scoring. Yeah. It was simply too easy for them, and they're not expending energy. It was not grinded out. Possessions weren't. BYU rarely made the other team grind out possessions, and they score so easily. Then they go into that game with all sorts of confidence, and confidence in shooting is, I don't know if it's half the battle, as the cliche is, but it's way up there, and they've got to figure out a way to get guys to dig in. And then he's probably looking at, when they had their great runs, Jimmer was lighting it up. They weren't exactly a defensive juggernaut then, but he needs to get, I think what they need to get some guys who are willing to lay it out on the line on the perimeter, and then they need to get some better rim protection and better inside scoring. I think those are tried and true tested ways to win, because if you can have that, and if the 3-point shots are falling, then great. But if they're not, then you still have other ways. And the extent of BYU's easy baskets, they weren't really that easy, but they were either right or Dybantsa driving to the rim through what it seemed like 10 guys. And Wright was quick enough, and then he would throw up an off-balance shot. And Dybantsa possesses an enormous amount of athletic ability, so he found ways. But even those guys, they had to traverse their way to get to the basket. It wasn't like it was easy. There was never any throw the ball inside and then have an inside-out offense. They haven't had that. They certainly had nothing of that this past season, and I think they got to go to that. You look at Michigan with that big dude, the big Spaniard, Mara. I mean, he got you some easy buckets, right? And because he's so tall, and stunning to me that he sat the bench when another team for the last couple of years, when he looked like this kid's a player. I mean, he's kind of tall and geeky, a look awkward at times, but not that much, man. He looked like he was a nice player for them and made a significant difference in them being able to win the title.
As much as we can complain about the transfers and NIL, they found guys at UCLA and North Carolina who were not stars.
No.
They weren't cherry-picking the best players of other teams. They were seeing something nobody else saw, diamond in the rough kind of stuff. And it worked for them, and they got a title.
Yeah. And I think that's Kevin Young and his staff. It's hard to criticize, because if there's a 5-star out there and he's showing interest, well, yeah, you go after him. But they got to find some grinders, too, to be able to play at a high level. I know he's caught up in the stars, and that's great, and lottery picks, but you gotta have winning teams, and they got undercut by injuries. I don't want to discount that, but still, even with if the injuries never happen, were they going to be a top 50 defensive team?
No, probably not. And even if they did, I think they finished 59th actually. Even if they did get top 50, but are you top 40 or are you top 30? And when you look at who was in the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16, it was the best defensive teams. And I get he's coming from the NBA and it's different, but the best defensive teams in the NBA this year, the top 4 are Oklahoma City and San Antonio and Detroit and Boston. I don't think it's that order right now, but they are the top 4, and those teams are first and second place in the West and in the East right now. And the Jazz are 29th defensively, and the Wizards are 30th. It's we know what the standings are, and we know why. And defense wins championships is a cliche, but you've got to be at least above average. Maybe you have to be great, but you got to at least be above average. So how do you turn 59 into a top 40 or top 30 team, a top 20 team, and give yourself a chance to win a couple of games?
Yeah, I think that you have to demand it. Yeah, it has to be accountable to where.
But it's also the talent. I think the rim,
you're going to get
rim
benched.
protection. That BYU team, positionally, did they have guys who are big for their positions? Dybantsa, yes. But after that, no. I mean, Kaba, he could be undersized some nights.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I was against Arizona. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely, he was. And the Big 12 is such that it's a conference that can recruit size. The Big West can't, but the Big 12 can. Right? Mm-hmm. You can put big dudes there. So yeah, I think he's got to find guys that are willing to play a specific role, and maybe if they don't have some big star ranking, so what? You got to be able to see that. And I think it's a development for him. I believe he was in charge of offense, or his specialty in the NBA was enough from the offensive perspective. I know they talked about his inbounds plays and all that type of stuff. So I have a belief that he will grow into and get a roster that he needs to be able to compete at a high level. And he did get to the Sweet 16 in the first year, which was impressive.
Yeah, and they did have the injuries this year.
Yeah.
But I just think that the defense is going to have to get better. And, I mean, there are a couple ways to go here. If this season showed anything, it's that there are many paths. Whatever you choose to do it very, very well. And be good at everything. Because as much as I'm sitting here talking about defense, Michigan and Arizona both had top 5 offenses also. They were elite at both ends of the floor.
I think you need both.
Right.
I don't think just being deficient in one area is good enough. You need to be good in both. You need to have a well-rounded team and a well-rounded roster of guys. If I've got 2 prolific offensive players, then I need to make sure I get some guys who are willing to slap the floor and play some defense.
Arizona and Duke go for the multiple freshmen who are NBA prospects. Now, the risk you run is as the games get bigger, they don't have tournament experience. They're literally freshmen. They can't. And they're playing the biggest games of their lives. So if they have some nerves and have a late turnover, can you really be surprised? I mean, we can sit here and say, oh, he's such a good player. Why did Boozer throw that pass? And he's a freshman. Both of them were freshmen. And then they
but the coach is telling him to throw it.
Yes.
And he's not a freshman.
That split screen of the coach waving, that was very telling. But I do think that when you look at the whole question about why Duke has blown these big leads and all that, it's kind of like one of the last two teams, they've been talented, wildly talented, but they've been running a bunch of freshmen out there. Arizona maybe had a little more of a mix. Michigan went down a totally different path. So do you want to build it with freshmen? Do you want to build it with transfers?
You want to build it with the best players.
Okay, well, I think Duke a year ago with Cooper Flagg built it with the best players.
Okay, but it's a one-game basis, and so they lost.
They lost in the Final Four. It's still a great season.
Yeah.
They're in the Final Four. And this year, as bitter as that game was, they still had a great season.
Right.
They won the ACC, and they went to the Elite Eight. They didn't suck.
Duke's recruiting isn't the problem.
No. So, but I think the question for a school like BYU is, can you get enough of those guys when you know the Dukes and the Arizonas of the world are probably going to get theirs? How many more lottery picks are available at that point? Rutgers 1 year gets 2, but then they're just back to being Rutgers. What's sustainable? And that's why I think the point you make about the gritty guys, the program guys, maybe bigger, more talented program guys, but they need to have some of those guys because it just doesn't seem likely that BYU is going to bring in 3 or 4 lottery picks and follow it up the next year with 3 or 4 lottery picks. Now, maybe they are. Maybe, the whole we're not going to get outbid thing, and they learned from the first 2 years, and they're having these discussions, and they're picking one of these paths, and maybe they decide they want to go the Duke-Arizona route.
Yeah, I think to an extent you can go there, but I don't think you can put all your eggs in that basket, as they say, because you need to get some other dudes. And, he's gotten some local kids, which probably are going to be LDS, and they're going to have an affinity for BYU, so they're willing to stay a little bit if they're not getting 30 minutes a game as a freshman or what have you. And I think this is it's a self-discovery, because I think some of these kids that they had on this team, Dybantsa would be gone to the NBA, but the other and particularly one other player is they're gonna look for the money. And so if you get in bed with those types of players, to use that expression, you can't be surprised if they leave for more money. And BYU's got to figure out what's the best way, because you don't want to get in that complete and total, it's nothing but a transaction. And not at a place like BYU, which has more to offer. I mean, they keep telling us they have more to offer. And, Lee Kamard talking about the Sunday thing there made buzz, and the Gibb was on a national show, I guess maybe even this morning. I don't know. Yak and I were talking about it in the break about that. And so those types of kids, you got to go get them. And I think he'll figure that out. Those kids have to be available. And maybe if you look at it, well, okay, 1 year of player X versus 3 or 4 years of player Z, that player X may be better in that 1 year, but then if he takes off and goes to another school, I'd be better off with the other guy who may not be as highly acclaimed, but will be in my system, and I'll develop him. So by the time he's a junior, man, he is a critical role player that is helping us win games in the manner that Dave Rose did.
And that's why I think that phrase you used about the self-discovery. They have to figure out what is the recipe at BYU in this new world order.
Right.
In the Big 12 is different than being in the Mountain West and the WAC, and the NIL era is different. And they just got to figure out what it is that works.
Agreed. And I'm willing to give them a little bit of a time because in both seasons they went to the NCAA tournament.
Right. And we know that it took, Ron McBride coached at Utah twice as an assistant to try to figure out what worked, and he got a recipe. And then the people who've copied it, whether it was Kyle Whittingham later or Gary Anderson going to Utah State, and we can go on down the line through the coaching tree. The recipe works once you figure it out. But with the change in conference and the change in rules, what is the recipe? And what's the goal? Are you trying to be a Sweet 16 team? You're trying to be a Final Four team? Obviously, the margin for error gets less and less the deeper you get.
Well, I think they're going to try to
tournament.
be Final Four. I remember Dave Rose's opening press conference. He spoke of that. I mean, that needs to be the goal. The goal can't be the Sweet 16. No, that's a check mark along the way.
DJ and PK, we're taking a break. When we come back, everything you missed in this show. Next, stay with us.
Just a bunch of guys sitting around and talking sports. This is Scotty G and friends.
Tony Jones from The Athletic. When you get blown out at home by a team that lost 16 in a row, I applaud that lack of effort. That was impressive by the Jazz.
The lengths that the Jazz are going to pull this off and to make sure that they keep that pick. I got to say, this is the best front office in the league at this point. I'm all in. Because they're going to keep their pick, all right? They're going to get a top 5 pick. Listen, you ready for me to get wild on here?
Let's go.
I'm going to get
Let's
wild
do it.
on this show.
Let's do it.
If the Utah Jazz get A.J. Dybantsa, they're winning an NBA championship within 3 years.
Lloyd, you rolling on that? Lloyd's got it.
Lloyd, you got that?
Wow.
Catch Scotty G and friends weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. Yuck, you're giving away so much stuff today. You just feel like Santa Claus in April?
Sure. I'm kind of overloaded at this point, but yeah, we're having fun.
Would you like to give away Jazz tickets right now, or would you like to qualify someone for the Masters? We'll do one now, we'll do one later.
Let's do Jazz tickets now. We'll do the Masters here in a bit.
All right, it's a Jazz Ticket Tuesday. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. Wins a pair of tickets to watch the Utah Jazz and the Memphis Grizzlies Friday night at the Delta Center. Free tickets for a date night Friday night at the Delta Center. Call right now, 801-575-ZONE. PK, we just heard the update. Was that like your favorite update? The updates are coming to a close here as the season ends. Was that your favorite update of the year? The Swiss Army knife, John Conchar, a.k.a. the Lion. Sometimes you have a lineup. Hey, this is exactly what we've been talking about. Who's going to score for the Jazz next year? Who's the offense going to run through? Who's 20 points a game? How many guys can be 20 points a game? Is anybody going to be 25? Are they going to be sharing the ball and rotating in and out and all that kind of stuff? But not everyone can shoot every time down. Someone's got to be defending, rebounding, passing, spacing the floor. That's the Lion, PK. John Conchar, a.k.a. the Swiss Army knife. I hear a coach who might want him on the roster next year.
Okay, but he might want him on the roster, sure. But you think the Lion King is going to get substantial minutes?
No.
Then what difference does it make?
Role guy gets 15, 20 minutes. You can still feel good when he comes in and makes a nice play.
15 or 20 minutes is substantial minutes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking more like starting minutes.
Oh, no, not at all. No, I'm talking.
Do I think he
15,
can make
20 minutes? If you get at least 12 minutes, which is one quarter, you have an opportunity.
So the 12 minutes, when I hear 12 minutes, I start thinking eighth or ninth guy in the rotation. Do I think he could do that? Yeah, I think there's a possibility because they're going to build around the key players, and then it's not just – where were you drafted? How much are we paying you? Like, they have to win. Who makes winning plays? Is there time for you? Joe Ingles made winning plays. They could not keep him on the bench. He made winning plays. Now, a lot of that time, he was not 25, 30 minutes a game. Eventually, his role grew into that, and maybe that's what we remember because that's when we saw him play the most. But there was a time he was playing 10, 12, 15 minutes a game.
Yeah.
You don't think he can do that?
I don't know. I hope not. And that's nothing against the Lion King.
Well,
that just means the team is pretty good.
Right. I get where you're going with that. I won't guarantee you that he's in the top 8 or 9, but I'm not ruling it out. Here's the other thing, too. The top 8 or 9 on any given night, because I just don't think there are going to be that many guys who play more than 70 games. So if you've got 9 players and everybody's missing at least 12 games, you're always missing somebody. You could be the 10th guy in the team, but as long as you show up, you're probably 8 or 9 and in the rotation because there's always going to be somebody missing.
Yeah, but they got all these draft picks, and they're not playing because they're draft picks. They're playing because they have developed. I can't see him getting minutes ahead of Sensabaugh, Cody Williams, Flipper.
Oh, I could see him getting minutes ahead of Sensabaugh.
No way.
They've got to get better defensively. Sensabaugh. Ben, you always say you don't know anything about
against Sensabaugh. Now you're talking about what were we talking about, Sensabaugh or Williams?
No. Could I see? I think that Cody and Conchar can bring the defensive. You were just talking about defensive slap the floor. There's not going to be like 5 shooters out there at all times, and like some people are going to be out there because they can defend and rebound and they can pass and move the ball. Now Cody's got to score it well enough that they don't just cheat off him and. The other guys are playing 4-on-5 on offense. So there's questions for these young guys to answer. I'm not guaranteeing that any of them are in the top 8 or 9 next year. I can see them on the roster, but it's like we talked about with Locke. You're a guy 11, 12, 13. There'll be times you're useful, but there'll also be a lot of nights where you're just sitting over there not playing.
Sure, but I don't think that Lion King is going to be ahead of these guys. I think they like Harkless better.
Interesting. What do you think about Hinson?
I don't know what to think.
I'm with you. The basketball is so fraudulent at this time of year.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of this is real. That's why we brought that up with Locke, and he brought him up. Like there might be something there.
He's got good size. He's got an NBA body. Mm-hmm. I would love to see it. Love to see a kid like that break through. Those types of kids, I'm attracted to them. I'm drawn to them. Who had nothing handed to them and had to just, not that Lion King has had everything handed to him because I'm not saying that, but you brought up Hinson, so that's who we're talking about, Hinson right now. And I don't know what to think, honestly. I've been impressed. He's impressive. Just standing there, right? And I've watched him, and it looks like something there. But then you got a kid like Mihalik. I get what Will Hardy's talking about with him because he sits for weeks at a time, gets in, and does good stuff.
No.
And so where does he fit in? They all can't play. And then you're going to have somebody who's got to be the backup center. He's got to be in the top 8, 9, 10 because if it's Kessler and they re-sign, if the Nurkic comes back, somebody's got to take those minutes. So that's a position you're getting bumped out at.
I do wonder if they'll play a centerless lineup or if they'll call Jackson the center. There are nights where the other team, let's say, is the other team going small? Can you, quote-unquote, go small and have
you can for a time, but if you've got an elite rim defender, man, you want him in there.
Right. But Kessler would be playing his 30, 35 minutes, whatever it turns out to be. But are there 10 minutes a game?
I just
wonder how big that backup role is.
They can be, yeah.
And it'll depend on some nights. So some nights you absolutely have to have a.
But I'm talking about the playoffs. I'm not talking about the regular season. I don't care what happens in January.
Okay, but I think in the playoffs, then it depends on the other team and their ability. When people were trying to figure out how to beat the Warriors, some teams that go big, some teams that go small. We'd see a playoff series where Bogut, played at the U, so we kept our eye on him. We'd see a playoff series where he played every night, and then we'd see a playoff series where he didn't get the game.
Great, because they had the greatest shooting team in the NBA history, so they can do whatever the hell they wanted.
Well, it was also what the other team was doing to them and how they had to match up.
Was Steph and Clay? No, they were fine.
Yeah.
Their offense was
you were
fine.
the Warriors when you had Durant.
Yeah.
You're not worried about what the other team is doing.
Well, Draymond was the one. They could have Draymond chase around the big guy.
And he was out there, and including him in the mix. Absolutely. Yeah.
But big guys sometimes don't have a matchup and sit.
Sure. But, then you'd have to sit Jackson because he's a big man, and you'd have to sit Markkanen because he's a big man.
Those are the big guys who play. It's like you said, they got a ball. They're making the $50 million.
Right, so you do what you do best. And let the other team adjust to you.
We also had Mike Folta on during today's show talking about the Edmonton Oilers And the Utah Mammoth tonight, 6 games to go, potential playoff matchup. If Edmonton wins the Pacific Division, there's 3 teams separated by 1 point, so that's got to shake out here for the next 2 weeks. But everybody's upbeat right now. The goals are flowing. They're scoring on the power play. Times are good, but they've been on the road too, and they are much better on the road lately than at home.
I think that's just circumstantial.
Well, then get it going tonight.
Well, I mean, they're playing a really good team. I'm not going along the lines of a statement game, because if you lose, then what's the statement? You can never beat them.
Right? You're doomed.
Yeah.
We also went to Augusta. We'll be doing that all week long here with Bob Casper and Brian Taylor there. BT joined us today. There's a bunch of young guys, PK. The leading money winner on the PGA Tour, Jacob Bridgman, 26 years old, doesn't have all that Augusta experience. Morikawa, 29, he's actually been playing for so long. He does have Augusta experience, but he's got a bad back, and he's going to try to play through that. You trust Scheffler at this point?
Of course.
He's won. He's up and down, but he hasn't been dominant.
It's impossible to be dominant in this game. It's happened so few times. I mean, he has been dominant in his own way. Maybe you're going this year, but I mean, these guys are the leading money. Because, yeah, if I play in 15 tournaments and you play in 5, I got a shot to have more money. That doesn't concern me. It's who puts together the best 4 rounds. I mean, it's the 10-year anniversary of Danny Willett. Who the crap remembers Danny Willett?
Danny Willett, right? Yeah.
And I remember that he was sitting on a couch, and there was somebody out there who bogeyed, and that meant he won, and he was just giddy. And good for him. And he had his moment, but that's it. And I talked to Nick Faldo, and we were talking about moments, and he said, yeah, I've had my moment. I said, no, Mr. Faldo. You've had an hour's worth of moments.
You have more than a moment.
Yeah, I said, yeah, you've had plenty. He kind of was self-deprecating because I was making a point about these guys having their moments. And then I said, somebody like you, and he jumped in, and he kind of cut me off. I said, I was going to say, you're an old-timer. And he was, when I said having a moment, he thought I was comparing to these guys. Oh, yeah, I've had a moment. That's not what I meant. I meant guys who have moments versus the great ones. That's where I was going. And that's the crazy thing about golf is that it's a 4-day race. And who knows, man, if Willett can do it. And there's been other guys that have done it. Mike Weir did it. He has 1 major. And what a major to have, man. Oh, yeah. If I'm picking one, this is the one I'm picking. I know others may say the U.S. or what have you, and then the foreign guys go for the one on their side of the world.
Right.
But for me, if I'm picking one, this is it. Because it truly is, as your hero Jim Nantz says, a tradition unlike any other. Because everything else moves around. This stays. There's so many things involved in it that if I pick one that I could have, it would be this one. It would be, I would take this one even over this summer winning the men's league senior division at River Oaks.
It's a close call. But, yeah, I think the whole chasing ghost thing at Augusta really does give this tournament something special. You just can't get, with St. Andrews hosting, roughly once a decade,
right,
or Pebble Beach or whatever. It's the fact that, every hole, I'm into it, but there are people who are way into it, way more than me, right? But I'm into it. I mean, I look at 16, and it doesn't matter where someone's on the green. I look over there to the right and kind of down there, that's where Tiger was when he chipped it, right?
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
you look at 18, and it's like, well, that's where Phil was when he jumped and got maybe 2, 3, possibly even 4 inches off the ground.
I saw daylight.
I was so excited.
I had to squint, but I saw it.
Yeah, right? And I think you just go around, at 13, you're like, there's the creek. I've seen a million guys make birdie here.
Yeah, they're up a creek is what you're saying.
They've been up that creek without a wedge.
Or a paddle.
Either one. What do you think about Rory after all that emotion and all that? He's got the career slam. He finally got Augusta. That was a heck of a story. Can he come back, or is it just take a victory lap around this?
No,
make the cut, Rory.
I think these are what these guys shoot for. When you've reached his level, this is what it's about.
He's got 5 majors. Get to 6. Move your name up on the list.
Right, and they're aware. And golf does a great job of it's like baseball with the stats.
Yeah.
They know them. They're apparent.
Yeah, the number of back-to-back Masters champions who've gone back-to-back is very short. So get yourself on that list. Tiger and Jack.
Yeah.
All right, DJ and PK, we're taking a break. When we come back, your feedback, everything you have to say about this show coming up next. Stay with us. We have a golfer to give away right now. We need someone to qualify for our Copper Rock Masters Golf giveaway. It's time right now. Caller 12. Call 801-575-ZONE. You'll be assigned a player in the field at the Masters this week. If your golfer wins the Masters, you will win 18 holes for 2 at Copper Rock Golf Course in Hurricane and a $100 gas gift card. It's brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play. Question of the morning, Michigan wins the national championship, starting 5 transfers. Is this what we want for college basketball? Brent gives it a big old thumbs down. Derek says, why must we always ruin every good thing we have? Yeah, I don't feel like it's ruined, but sure, okay. U-State Iceman. Now, Jack, his Aggies have benefited from this. Guardrails. We need guardrails that make it so everyone is on the same footing. Not going to happen.
When has that ever happened in college sports?
It has never happened. There have always been teams willing to cheat. A few have been caught, and we know about them. There have been some spectacularly hilarious stories of stuff getting botched over time by people who were cheating and pretending like they weren't. And there's people who've largely gotten away with it. It's not like everybody who does 85 on I-15 south of Fillmore gets caught, right, PK?
Hey.
Sorry, too personal. I was talking about me.
Okay.
Jack says we need a cap like the NBA and no free will transferring. See, the thing is they like to – not that anyone buys it. They like to – the student athlete. Well, students can transfer anything anytime they want.
Yeah, but students, if you want to graduate, can't transfer anytime they want.
It gets hard, doesn't it? What do you mean all those credits don't transfer?
I transferred, and I lost some.
I bet, yeah.
Which I was glad to lose them because my GPA at NAU wasn't very good.
Let's pretend like that didn't happen.
It's much better at ASU.
Then we've got people talking about your Utah Jazz. We still have people weighing in on Ace Bailey. Could it be the number one option? And Courier Falcon says a lot depends on how Coach Hardy designs his plays and his rotations next season.
Yeah, I don't see it. I just don't see it by February.
I don't either.
He has to then be
sensational.
Hall of Fame caliber player. And the other guys have to bust, and they're too good to bust.
And is he going to be sensational that quickly?
Wow, if he is,
that's awesome. I'd like to see it. It would lead to a certain amount of chaos and passion that a radio show would thrive on. So let's do it.
Yeah.
But when Locke asked us on the air, I did think, like in 3 years. In 3 years, you get him to like 22, 23. The prime's 27. He's the guy. Yeah, I could see that.
I don't have any problem with that. I just think there has to be a natural progression. And that would be unnatural. It would be unnatural to the good and to the positive, but it would still be unnatural.
All right, DJ and PK. Anything else you want to tell the people, PK? Now that we live in the Big Ten era with the Michigan basketball title joining the UCLA women and Indiana football.
Oh, it's funny. I just saw a thing, Yak had brought up, and I'd seen the rankings that UCLA's ranked number 1 in baseball.
Yep.
And somebody put, if they had to go through what the Big 12 teams have to go through, there'd be no way they'd be number 1. So, and I'm not following Big Ten women's basketball, but I did follow the Bruins this year. So, they're claiming the conference of the old Bill Walton
Conference of Champions.
Yeah, and you got to give it to them. I mean, certainly the football and basketball, even the women, all three of them are legit. Even if it's funny to think that one is now a member of the Big Ten, but nevertheless they are playing a Big Ten schedule. A lot of their recruiting was based on Pac-12, but they won, and they won the women won in dominant fashion. And Michigan men, they had been dominant, but they were good enough to win, and that's really all that matters. And they got all these transfers, but as reported out, the best player on this team, what's his name? The guy who had the injury. He went to junior college. He was at Arizona Western. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know he was at Arizona Western.
Yeah, he's a Jersey kid. Born in Puerto Rico, grew up a little bit in Jersey, found his way somehow out to Yuma, Arizona, of all things, and goes to UAB and then transfers over to Michigan. So that guy, it's kind of like a Lou Dort for Oklahoma City. I would guess that a lot of people had an opportunity to get him, but Oklahoma City saw enough to sign him, and now he's a starter on a team that has an excellent chance to repeat for winning the title for a second consecutive year. And obviously, I'm speaking of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So just because there's a transfer doesn't mean that it was a transfer in that everybody was bidding for him and they paid the top dollar to get him.
Right. It's not just an auction. You got to have an eye for talent, diamond in the rough, and figure out how someone fits in with your team.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
And who's about ready to take a leap forward? Who's about to make a big leap? Like, yeah, they weren't that good then, but they are that good now.
Sure.
All right, DJ and PK, we're all done. Jake and Ben are next right here on The Zone.